We're live. Peace, family. Welcome to Sunday Sit with Sisters. Sorry we're so late today. Dana's not here, but we got Sister Takara sitting in for her. We're so happy to have Takara. And of course, Queen Juanita is here in the building.
Yes.
So, ladies, how y'all week been? What's going on?
It's been really good, y'all. School is real. Midterms this week. Working on some music, but things have been great. I'm blessed. Peace,
right on, right on. What about you, Juanita? How's it going for you?
Work, more work on the back end, work on the front end. We working. So we trying to buy this house though. You know,
oh, you trying to buy a house?
Man. If somebody would accept an offer, you know, it's a lot of y'all out there just greedy. And I just have a very different perspective on. I definitely do plan to get into real estate and to own multiple properties. Like that's what I plan to do. But my goal is not just to become rich off of owning a bunch of properties and you know, like taking advantage of people who are in a desperate situation who just trying to provide for themselves, their family, and have a roof over their head. So it's just crazy to me that I look at some of these folks and they done bought these houses because, you know, the market was very different a couple of years ago. Did nobody know what was going to happen once Trump got in office, right? So the market was down. And people was picking up stuff and buying houses, $250,000, $220,000, you know, and now they want to sell it for $400,000 because they want all to come up. And I'm just like, I'm not paying that much money for a house. And they like, will you waive the appraisal? No, I'm not waiving an appraisal. Would you ever buy something that's not worth what you charge me for? Like, you get what I'm saying? So it's been, anybody who has bought a home, they know that it is very frustrating and very time consuming. All your time go to looking, going back and forth, contracts, the whole nine.
So what made you want to buy a house? Because I'm always curious when I see younger people, and myself, buying a house young. Because y'all older, you like
29.
29.
And
That's
3/4.
beautiful. So by the time you're 50, you would have a whole bunch of equity in your home.
Oh yeah,
which is awesome. What made you want to buy a house? That's a big
What
responsibility.
made me want to buy a house is because I'm tired of throwing my money away and renting. I know that there's value in ownership and having assets versus liabilities. You know what I mean? And if I'm always going to make sure that I have a roof over my head and provide it for my daughter. But if I can be in a position where I can look out for my sister-in-law, my nieces and nephews, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to be in that position to have that space. And it's security. You know, at first, initially, it is a big investment. You know, I've had to save a lot of money. Like I said, I have to work a lot. I went to go put on some shoes yesterday for my cousin's bridal party. Shout out to Lauren. And my shoe, I'm looking at them, and it was something like the straps was off or something. And I'm like, what's going on with these straps? They talking at the bottom. I'm like, I ain't bought no shoes in a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Because I've just been sacrificing and doing what I got to do so I can save up for this home so I can be secure. So it takes some sacrifice. It takes some working, some sleepless nights, and some working extra overtimes and all that stuff. For sure.
You're going to get that house.
Amen. Speak that into existence.
Yeah,
because I'm more than ready.
I just think it's beautiful because we know that 7 out of 10 homes in California is owned by an Asian.
I think I'd have some Asian neighbors too.
Yeah, all their houses. And they definitely got Land Park sold up, the Quays and Cap, they got El Grove sold up too. But that's a whole, and definitely downtown.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, home ownership is a key to freedom. You know, equity is a key to freedom. And you know, while we're living in the world, we know there's falsehoods and all that. Only thing that remains the same is the dollar and the worth of the dollar in terms of how you're able to acquire things.
Man,
you can't do shit without money. I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, in terms of like trying to gain traction, you got to pay people. Ain't nobody working for free.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna rent you no building for free. I mean, shit, it takes money. I hate to say it. It takes money. So that's what's up. Okay, Takora, you got your album coming out.
Yep, we got
Tell us about this album.
I have a music project coming out. It's my first collective body of work of music that I worked on. It's called Kari. It's a self-titled album. It doesn't really describe me, more so the experiences of life I've been through that made me to be who I am today. I'm very excited. It'll be dropping in any day. I'm doing a Beyonce drop, so just look for the link.
Just in the dark, huh?
It's gonna come. Surprise! But I'm really excited. I owe a lot to everyone who's helped me with the music and live. I recorded like 80% of the album in Ghana on my last trip there.
Oh, wow.
It's being mixed, mastered, and like post-produced in Ghana.
That's
so I'm
dope.
very excited for everybody that's here in Sacramento and California and this part of the world to like hear everything that I've been experiencing in my travels and how that's been produced into art. So I'm very excited to package it, produce it, and share with my people, my family. And there will be a music release party, so everybody look out for that. Got t-shirts, merch, coming, tickets, all that stuff. So just look for a reason to support, because there'll be plenty.
What made you do this album in Ghana?
I would say that I fell in love with the freedom that I had, creative freedom, and just the amounts of peace that I could create within, like being in the birthplace of all creation just gives you a very intense creative energy, and I tapped into that every day that I was there, and it's just a different sound, a different piece of my artistic growth, I think, to be able to be in such a peaceful place, at least peaceful, what I consider peaceful compared to what I live out here, and it was a different artistic space I was able to be in.
So with that being said, what can we expect from this album?
We can hear a lot of different sounds, hip hop, poetry, Afrobeat, gospel on there. I try to be versatile, like all my life experiences, and put it into a project. So I'm really excited. I want to hear what people think. I want to make sure I came across as genuine. You know what I'm saying? I'm still Kari for the hood, but I've been somewhere. So I got some stories to tell.
A little highbrow culture.
I got some stories to tell, and I threw it all in the music. So I really hope people appreciate it.
That's dope.
Thank you.
Right on. Did you dedicate any part of this album, like to your mama, or to certain experiences or issues? Or?
I think it'll all come out of the music. I had a lot of it dedicated to like my upbringing, just because the songs will have a lot to do with like who I am right now as a woman and like the conflicts I come from. But I definitely would dedicate this to everyone who's ever played a part in my life, and that's kind of what the self-titled piece is about. Like everyone has played a part in my upbringing. Everyone has played a part in who I am today. So like for me to be here is only a testament to those who helped me get here.
Right on. So y'all putting this is what it looks like. And when it drops, how can I get in touch with you, Takari?
Is that how am I doing right? What's over there?
Hey,
I'm Kari J at The Real Kari J on Instagram, at The Real Kari J, KARIJAY on Twitter, and Kari J on Facebook. So just hit me, and I'll be around. It's coming, I promise.
Right on. Well, congratulations.
Thanks,
we know you the dopest one right now.
Thank you.
I mean, dope in a good way, y'all. Dope in a good way. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
There's a lot to talk
about some new stuff now, right? We about to update the topics.
Yeah, we good. No. Well, we can do whatever. I'm gonna ask y'all just kick it off. I mean, what y'all want to talk about? I know, Juanita, you sent me some information about school and
yeah, I'm just getting my
defiance or like what's going on with our young people when it comes to school.
There was a video that was going around, and y'all know I see these things, but I don't always remember all the details in terms of the states and exactly where it was taking place. But there was a video that went viral about this officer dealing with a young girl in 6th grade. Sean King posted it earlier this week, and the young girl was in 6th grade and she was being defiant, according to the officer's report. But they have reviewed the cameras to kind of match with everything that the officer was claiming as to why he ended up taking the force that he ended up taking. Long story short, the young girl was, I guess, asked to, she was in the cafeteria, she had some milk, she got an extra milk. That's illegal. You can't get
extra milk?
You can't get an extra milk.
Oh, wow.
Maybe she was thirsty, I don't know, but she's not allowed to get extra milk. She got an extra milk, that was a problem. They showed a video of her walking past the vice principal, and when she walked past, literally walked right past him, like maybe her arm brushed, maybe her backpack rubbed up against the vice principal. The officer put in his report that she assaulted the vice principal. That there was a teacher standing by a door. She tried to get past and get out the door, and they were like, "You can't go out this door." And she was like, "I'm leaving," blah blah blah. So she goes past the door. He wrote that she physically assaulted that other staff, but there was never any real contact from this student to any other administrators or the staff on campus. And once she got out the door, the officer on his body cam, you can see he was like, I'm sick of this. I'm just tired of this. And he goes and attacks her. He grabs her, he throws her on the ground, he's wrestling with her. She's like, stop, you're hurting me, you're hurting me. His body cam ends up falling off. And another staff member, because as I'm sitting there, again, as an educator, I'm thinking, Lord, because the Lord knows, this can't never happen where no campus that I'm at. Like, this would never happen. I've already had to address teachers when they want to lecture a kid for not standing for the pledge. You're not allowed to do that. And I've had to, when you are in that space and in that position, you have to speak up for these kids. You can't just let these people run around on these kids. If that was your child, your niece, your nephew, you be wondering, where's the other staff?
Right.
Because even if it's one cuckoo, it's a bunch of y'all other ones who need to get this together. Like, you know what I mean? Get that person together. Because the kid can't, based on the authority and everything. But anyway, so there was another staff member who was addressing the officer and was telling them, yo, enough is enough. We're not going to go physically. We don't need to take excessive force. And he wrestling with her on the ground like, it's not excessive. It's not excessive. And they're telling him, this is excessive. Like, you need to stop. And he still refused to stop. So my understanding is that he has been on administrative leave while they are doing their investigation. But y'all can definitely check that out with Tiffany Fields. Hey girl, hey. She said, I believe that he has resigned. Yeah, because it was. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that couldn't have been my child. And when I tell y'all, because in his report he said that the girl was stronger than he believed. She was stronger than him. Now he a grown man. She 11-year-old. She an 11-year-old kid.
So one of the things I have noticed when you see these, there's so many of these videos now about, kids being defiant and all that, and it just seems like it's this thing where, especially if the person is black, they want them to it's like a control thing. Like, do what I say, come here.
Oh yeah.
It's just something about that whole situation, and out of all the situation where it's this thing of like having you in your place, whatever that is, or to me it's reminiscent of slavery.
Oh yeah.
When you were supposed to do what you were told, and there were like consequences or whatever. I think we have to call a spade, because every time we try to dress this up like biases and that's racist. Like, I feel the same way about teachers. I feel like I wish there was a test you could take to find out if you even like black kids. And that way, if you don't, we don't place your ass at no school like that. Or you shouldn't be teaching kids anyway.
There's a certain level of internal bias. Yeah, we definitely have internal bias. And I mean, that's already been research studied and printed. You know what I mean?
So
everybody has that. It's just that you have to be aware of it. It's more so a problem when you are unaware and you claim that you don't have it. You get what I'm saying? So if I say, hey, I do have a bias in terms of, if I had a company, I hire people who look like me. Right. I hire people who I identify with, who I relate to. Mm-hmm. White people do the same thing. That's not, it's not something wrong with it, but it's just that you have to be aware of it and say, okay, this is my initial bias. I would prefer, a black woman with a degree and who's a mother. I identify with them.
And bias, we're looking at people's bias, folks' bias. I think that's how we address and assess folks on an individual level. But when we look at the bias in perspective to everything that's going on, like some of this shit's a bias, and then some of this stuff is a bias, and some of this stuff is really just the perpetuation. Implicitly, but it's the perpetuation of an agenda. And we think about why these schools were started and why a lot of these police are present in the product of schools, because they really getting paid to fill up juvenile hall detention beds. They're getting paid to fill up jail detention centers. So we criminalize the education process so we can then justify when we have to take babies from school and put them in jail, because these people are getting paid to fill up beds. But I realized that every school I went to since maybe 6th or 7th grade had a police officer present in situations where they could have been mediated by a counselor, in situations where my teacher could have just talked to somebody and mediate the situation. We are being then confronted with the militarization of schools. Where everybody is equipped with a gun, and where counselors can carry a tape if they fear their students, and all these different things. So we are subjecting our students, I feel, to this treatment when we
get used to it.
When we put them into school. You know what I'm saying? Like ultimately, and on a perfect sunny day, 10 years or 30 years from now, when my children are raised and everything, they can say that they came through a different type of system. You know, that maybe they came through a homeschool process, which I'm looking into as a mother, future mother. Like, what are we looking at as alternatives as Black women and Black mothers and Black people who will have to raise the next generation of people? Or how much of this are we telling our kids to accept when we tell them to go to school and be on their best behavior and don't say nothing to your teacher and make them mad at you.
Normalizing
we're telling
oppression.
them, you feel me? Like, I'm gonna drop my baby off to this and be happy when I pick them up. Or the mothers that, like you said, what would we have done if it was my baby? What would I have done?
No, listen, I can't even imagine.
The mothers that don't come to the school till it's a problem. That's the energy that we create. That's the atmosphere that we create. We don't show up till it's a problem. But if I was the mama in there every day, hello, how you doing, officer, principal, everybody else in here? This is my mom. So every day after this, you ain't go slam her to the ground.
You know me.
You know, that's the time we
will,
living in. We got to really adjust the way we show up at our kids' school if you're not going to snatch her.
That's when I have to add to that because
that's real talk.
There are so many. I have sat on so many boards, so many committees with Sac City Unified. We're not even getting into them details. I could talk about them, so I don't work for them no more. I'm my own boss. But anyway, hello. But there's definitely this, and I just wanted to comment on Tiffany's. She shared a comment saying that all teachers have implicit bias, and sadly, even Black teachers have been shown to treat other Black students more aggressively. Because the thing is that we have people who have just a certain stereotype, and we have a certain bias, a certain assumption. And the assumption on campuses, and I promise y'all, I cannot make this up, is that just like Takara just said, we're not going to see these White parents until it's a problem. But we're not seeing them at PTA meetings. We're not seeing them coming to volunteer. No, what we're talking about, parents. Okay. But what are we talking about? I'm saying at the staff, the faculty, the administrators, their assumption is we will not see Black parents until it is a problem, until we tell them that their kid ain't gonna graduate. Right. If they're not gonna graduate, the mama gonna be up in here and she got a big problem. Right. But she's not here for the PTA meetings. She's not here to volunteer on campus. She's not here to chaperone, field trips or nothing. That's not what they're here for.
But where do we see a history of Black parents be disenfranchised from their educational process?
Everywhere.
Integration. When you start sending your babies to white schools that your Black behind not even allowed to step on the premises, you can't even go and war for your children because only your children were allowed into the school. Right. So we have these I think we've normalized a lot of behaviors.
That's
the way Black people just surrender their children to systems. I'm gonna just drop my baby off and then hopefully she's gonna be all right at the end of the day with a campus, with a police, everybody. All these people don't think your child is dangerous. You're just gonna drop her off and pick her up and she's gonna be okay.
Let's pause for that. The church say, hold on, let me grab my pen and paper. Hold on, because she just spoke some truth there. Yeah. When we integrated schools,
Black parents couldn't come
to the school and be upset about how you was treating their child.
Well, that is a good,
valid point. That is a valid point.
So it's a culture, though. It's a culture. I ain't gonna say the legislation was on legislation. I know legislation, but I would say that our parents were scared to go to the school.
Well, some.
Right. Because some parents was up there. Some parents was up there.
My parents volunteered at the school. My mom had 6 kids. Had 2 jobs. Yeah. Well, I'm from North Philadelphia, so our school mainly was Black.
2 jobs.
So it was a Black school. Black school.
Yeah. My mom worked like this. It wasn't necessarily thought of as a Black school, but it was a Black school because it was in a Black neighborhood. And so my mom, but
the ones that they pay the officers.
Well, I would say this though,
more money when they go to inner city. They pay the schools.
So on the East, but on the East Coast, because I can't really speak for Cali like that, because I came out here after crack hit. So my thing with y'all is that. But back in the day, your parent went up and volunteered. They figured out a day, whether it was yard duty. This when you had to do all the fingerprint stuff. You could just be like, I'm signing up. I'm gonna come up here and do X, Y, and Z. Also, we had dedicated Black teachers. I can still remember Miss Ballard. Miss Ballard taught my mom, and she taught me. My mother went to that same school. So Miss Ballard had permission to whoop you, but I ain't never seen her whoop nobody. But you would thought that she would be on your head. Right. But she taught us and we learned. Right. We had a moral respect for her. That's a beautiful example because everybody didn't have that. I'm from 1980s.
You
So
know,
that's when I was
that's
in
a
the
beautiful
70s
time.
and 80s.
And I'm thinking a lot of people in your generation probably would have the similar.
No, some of them probably
yeah,
did because some of them went to school with integrated people. It was all white people and maybe
and
a few black people.
I don't know.
It was all black
and
people.
I point to integration as one example of why
Well,
that
that's
may be a
great.
thing. But I think
I agree.
that we fairly trace and do the research as to what is the relationship and the dynamic between black families and institutions, and how have black families within our social organization dismantled our families. So like, if your mom only coming up there when you're in trouble, then you already, you and your mom and your teacher against you. So how do people, like students like myself, who mom probably had to come up there when it was some trouble, but I wasn't a bad kid. Like, you're not gonna have my mom up here thinking I'm in trouble, and my mom knows that. But because of the way, and I think the implicit, going back to this idea of implicit bias that we all kind of innately have, or you know, we could talk about the implicit biases, but I do feel like these institutions serve an agenda, and each institution comes with a set of bias that is almost imbued upon people who have to work within it. And you have to think that. So when you telling the only black teacher that work at the school, sending all of the black students to this one black teacher that may or may not even have this student in a class, but you are the black person that deals with the black problems at your white place of work, then that's another way of like fulfilling the agenda on behalf of the institution. Because they just gonna show all the people to you, and it's
that's
like,
true.
we're not
Black
like,
and
then
that would go and feed into what Tiffany had already said, that unfortunately that bias is even within black communities, because there, again, we've talked about this before, where sometimes it's like, well, if you are this standard of black, I can tolerate you and I can deal with you.
Right.
But if
and
you are this type
people,
of black,
and that's real.
we're gonna
and
treat
black
you
people
as
do
we
that
need
to
to treat
each other.
you.
We do that to each other. We do it in the world.
But when you have your job on the line,
right,
you feel like, well, I don't want these kind of black kids to affect these black kids, because these black kids are just getting these treatment for no reason, quote unquote. You know, because they're just black. But these black kids actually deserve it. You get what I'm saying? But we do have to understand that there is a distinction, because just as we've talked about again once before, the black experience is not a monolithic experience.
It is not.
But although we say that, we still have to have a certain level of unity when we are going against, or when we are trying to, not going against because that sounds combative.
But no,
when
we are going against a lot of stuff though. It's a war out here. We're going through a lot.
When it's y'all or us, you know what I'm saying? We need to come together as a real solid forefront to say, okay, it doesn't matter about these black kids or these black kids. They all black kids to the white folk. You know what I mean? So we have to.
They figure out how to push them down. Because I would say this about white folks.
They know how to come together.
Yeah, they also have a way of saying. I know somebody who went to school in another part of California, white person. They said in his class they had groups Z, Y, and X, and the Z people were the dumb white people, and then the Y people in the middle were kind of okay, and then the other group was the top group. So they have a way of shooting on their own people. Not trying to be funny, but it don't really matter much because whiteness is so powerful. They could just come down to black folks and be taken care of, and not even be a top-notch white person.
Right.
I know that sounds kind of fucked up. But I think
we don't
be knowing that stuff about
this
white
idea,
people.
I really love to have this conversation right now, y'all, because I'm juiced about my class I'm taking at Davis. I'm taking this class called The Social Organization of West African Societies. And it talks about what do family structures look like in ancient Africa. And we talk about reclaiming our African identity, we talk about getting more in touch with our blackness and things like that. But we have this idea that we're just going to be one unitary force and we're just going to all take over the world. But the truth is that, like, tribal relationships in ancient Africa and even family structures in ancient Africa were based on
I say that shit a lot. People look like I'm crazy, but go ahead.
It was based on a lot of different factors. You know, your geographic location, the governmental structure of your tribe. It was a lot of different ways.
So when we do like gang,
but it is a gang. But it's not. It wasn't as combative against each other until slave trade came and advanced that piece. But it was the idea is that we don't have to be all the same to respect each other. We don't have to be differences. We don't. And there is, and we also don't have to be like caught up with making everybody get down with how we get down, because there was a time where folks knew how to just immerse themselves into the wilderness and do their Dougie. It's something about this era where we try to make people feel bad about where they at in the community I'm speaking about. And if you have a black person that's not showing up the way you show up, or they're not doing anything, they're not passionate about the things you're passionate about,
you're so ready to throw them
away.
Throw the whole folks away.
Africa, people were really disperse and live peacefully.
Yeah.
For the sake of living peacefully, and this idea that we have to, like, you know, make each other feel bad for not existing the same way. But I think one of the gems and one of the powers of our blackness and our Africanness is that the power to be one and many at the same time. The power to know when to be one and when to be many, and when to say that, okay, we are one, and then I don't really know when I have to be a part of this one, because we are innately from, you know, the same motherland. But I don't think that we have enough conversation about what are the alternative ways that our societies can look like. We fighting to maintain a society that maintain or maybe challenge or, you know, revolt against all these. It's one idea that we have that's based upon this one experience and two, maybe three experiences that we have. I think when you look into other parts of the world, you be like, yo, people live in all type of ways. You know what I'm saying? They're getting by. They're not killing each other. They're not having no type of war. We just got to get to some different options. I think it's a lot of alternatives, and we got to, you know, stop trying to beat one horse. It's a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? It's a dead horse like that.
But I think that what you're saying is very relevant, but we're still in an American culture. You know, we still have a certain, given we might have the ability to have different kinds of perspectives and going about it differently, but because I don't know specifically, but like in America, we have a system, we have a government, we have, you know what I'm saying, school is mandated. And then you will get in trouble. You will go to jail. You will be fined. You will be whatever if you don't send your kid to these schools.
To some sort of school.
Yeah,
but there's
some sort of school. You're right. No, you're right about that. So there is a variety in charter schools,
some of those
private
schools take sacrifice though too.
They do.
But I'm just talking about in general.
I agree.
If you have the luxury of homeschools, if you have the luxury of a private school, of a Christian school, or you know, a Catholic school, or whatever, there are different variations within our school settings.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the majority of people turn to their home school within their district, and which is free for them.
Right.
And then they check the box, and it's, you know what I'm saying, and they trust that school is doing its job. One of the comments Tiffany had said that it's really unfortunate how hard, like we don't always have, again, the luxury of showing up, as she said, as Timmy's mom and to volunteer in the classroom and bring baked cookies and stuff like that. She said, I have to be cognizant of the fact that there are achievement gaps in schools, the pipeline to prison, you know, that is real. And she said, in addition to white folks that I have to deal with at my job. So what she's basically saying is, as a mother, there might be other preferences that we have, right? There might be other ideals that we would want to go after, but the reality is that we have real situations that we have to combat against. Like she said, folks not calling on my kid in the classroom, not worried about the fact that my kid is slipping, you know what I mean? But that you are more in tune with other people in your class who you feel like is advanced or whatever, and you'll overlook this kid, or you'll see, you know, the behavioral patterns in little Timmy and say maybe he's struggling with some sort of ADHD or, you know, behavioral disorder, but then John over here, who happens to be black, he's criminal, he's bad, he just don't have any sense of respect. But it's like this kid, you're like, oh, I can deal with him, and I feel like this is something different. But when they're black, they don't get that same. You know, they don't get that same.
Why though? But at the lens of the institution. So I feel like we're just going to talk about it, and we're going to flesh out, exactly, we're going to flesh out the same solutions and the same results of the system. But as long as we're talking about what happens in these schools. And I think that, like, that's why a big reason why I want to become a teacher after college, because I feel like to go in these systems and to submit yourself is not an easy thing. You know, I'm not putting the pressure on the families, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to have and exist within the system and have to drop your baby off. It's not an easy thing for parents. I don't mean my comments to reflect that. But I will say that, like, I think it's very important for black teachers and black people that have to exist within the systems for the sake of our survival. Just be aware that we don't have to subscribe to this. And at any minute, at any second, your black student, your black mentee, they're going to need you to do something that's against the rules. They're going to need you to break the rules for them. They're going to need you to slide them in, keep something a secret. They're going to need you to, all these mandated reporter, we report to who? The enemy. Who are you reporting to? Like, black teachers, for real, let's wake it up, because I think we consider ourselves like saviors in a sense, because we're there for them, but we end up buying more into the system than we into the advancement and the achievement of our people. And I see that with some of my black teachers. Like, my black teacher sometimes can be the worst teacher you got, because they try to keep their job. So they got to do what they got to do between you and them to keep them off their back up here. And I think you see that. I'm seeing that more in a higher education level because I can't even mess with all my black professors. Half these people up in here collecting tenure checks don't give a damn about like black students. And we really come up there in all type of conditions. Hungry, starving, late. They get on you because you're late. It's like, ma'am, it took everything for me to get to class today. I'm trying to be a black woman that's defeating the odds. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? I barely got here and you're going to say, oh, you late.
What's the population in UC?
Less than 3%.
I was going to say, it's 3%. It's 3%.
So it's like we can be in institutions and we can be proud of ourselves, you know, for being and doing everything we got to do to work in these big offices and get these big titles. But it really don't mean nothing if you're not putting on for people that's also in there with you. And I think that's the hierarchy that we kind of get lost in. For black people, we can do a lot of great stuff and achieve all this black excellence and all these things, but it don't mean nothing if it don't make sense for all of us.
And listen, that's a perfect segue to basically what we're talking about, because we talked about this before here, where even though black people will go and infiltrate a system with the best intentions, allegedly, you get caught up. You forget about the collective and you focus on the individual, and then you realize, okay, I could be doing all this, but they just gonna fire me, and then I'm gonna be another black person without a job.
That's not fair.
I know it's not.
But for them to be receiving an individual for the whole thing that affects us all.
Yeah, because as Rose says, they carrying the race. Right. They carrying the race for us. You know what I'm saying? But then they forget about that, or then they get tired of doing that, or then they feel the pressures of all of that, and feeling the pressures of being like, dang, all of these, just how you said, y'all want to send me all the black kids. Y'all want to send me all the ones that you don't want to deal with. When that's not really, I'm here to help, but I'm here to help everybody. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just because I'm black. I'm a good counselor, I'm a good teacher, or I'm a good this, despite my blackness, but my blackness does contribute. Never forget that. But that's not, I don't know, I feel like they get cornered, and then they get overwhelmed.
Black teachers right now.
Black teachers,
black counselors. I definitely think it's not easy being a teacher in this day and time, because people be quick to blame you for the kids they created. So I'm not saying, I agree with everything that y'all both said, but I wish it was that easy. I so wish it was. When people read about revolutionaries, I really wish it was that easy. I also know in the school, because I know I'm not the only one who grew up where we had parents and teachers who cared. So I know I'm not the only one. And my mother held us, even though we was poor, she held us to a standard. Absolutely. So it was never a luxury, it was always a sacrifice, because she was doing it by herself. Even though she was married, my dad wasn't there. And I'm saying that to say, I watch black people not back up people who put their ass on the line. I watch that all the time. I watch us talk and be romanticized about being down with black people and loving us, and it'll be those same black people who don't stand up for you. Like they just fired these 2 principals at Christian Brothers. It was nice to see the parents be in uproar. But I feel like if y'all was really serious about it, take your goddamn kids out of school for a week. They be alright. If you really want to show them that you want them teachers back, parents, don't just be up there with some fucking picket signs. Take your goddamn kid out of there. And they'll put them back in like that. But what I'm saying is sometimes you put your ass on you put your ass on the line, because we be quick to blame school, but your kids spend more time at home than they do at school. And my thing is, it's not a luxury for you to show up. No, they don't. No, a lot of kids do, especially if they ain't really in class. So let's deal with it. They spend the whole summer out of school. Who they with? They ain't in school.
Yeah, no.
But what I'm saying is, hold on, because I'm not trying to debate whatever you're talking about. I knew teachers who had put their ass on the line, but that was during the time where parents would show up. Where parents would show up. Yeah, and so it's not ever a luxury. It is a sacrifice. I know someone who pulled their kids out of school. Hell, she was running a whole agency, but she took time to educate her kids, because what she knew is that either I take care of them now or the system takes care of them later. I know there's several black women who've done that, and some of them were single parents. Like, I'm at to revamp my schedule, because either I can take care of them now or have the system take care of them later. Some people live by that, and I think that there's some of us who are really struggling, but I also watch us not back people up and have 50 million excuses why you can't. And I'm just saying, if your child, if you really, really love your child, I'm just being honest, it's not necessarily that they have the right tennis shoes and the clothes. It's about, what are you willing to sacrifice? You know, or maybe we're not talking to each other like we used to. If my mom couldn't make it to something, my neighbor would go in my mama's place. Because sometimes my mama had jobs and you couldn't be like, I can't get off. So she would send somebody else in her place. And I think some of it is that we need to figure out how we can work together. Seriously, we're getting there because now we're in the now we're in the time where you don't have a choice. Right. That's the beauty of 45. So we can all get out our fantasy football. You know, people like I'm educated, have 20 degrees. You are gonna catch hell like the person who's on welfare. That's the beauty about America. Anytime she could flip a certain way, and those of us who thought we was safe become immediately, you know, like not safe. You know, like you just like the niggas you thought you had left. I think that's what changes the whole ball game in our community, and I'm already seeing that. I'm seeing people talk to folks that they'd have never talked to before. We're not like them. Now they have to talk to them because now their kid is sitting next to this other person's kid. Mm-hmm. And the teacher don't like neither one of them. They don't even care.
And as we talked about before, the thing is that, and again I said segue because we moved to our next topic, but the thing is that people don't ever care about stuff, unfortunately, until it affects them.
You better shut your mouth up.
And that's just the reality. And sometimes, and like we were talking about before, well, this was before the camera was on, but as we were talking about before, the real thing is thank you, sis, fixing the crown. You know what I'm saying? Crown. We do that too. Follow us. You know what I'm saying? We don't care about things until it affects us. Right. We don't get involved with things until, and the thing is that there's not, hear me when I say that there is nothing wrong with you having your own soapbox, you know, you having your own passionate, whatever it is that you may be passionate about, whether it's about keeping art in schools, whether it's about saving the planet from plastic straws, whether it's about having black hair care that's not owned by white folks who's trying to just solicit to the black folks, like, you know what I mean, like really having it from people who experience and go through and understand the struggle. Everyone has their own, whether it's photography, whether, you know what I mean, like whatever it might be, you will have your own passion for whatever it is that you do. And when you try to you see the problem in that, you see the breakdown in whatever that might be, and then you get other people to try to care about your mission. When you cannot get other people to care about your mission, that's where the breakdown is, right? When there's a million different, when you at the grocery store, they're like, would you like to donate to food for families or whatever? Do you want to donate to kids for after school programs? Do you want to donate to, like, you know what I mean? It's like whatever it is that you need, that you feel is your calling, focus in on that. But that's not going to be everybody's calling. And you can get mad with somebody like, I don't care about after school programs for kids, but I do care about keeping plastic straws out of restaurants. Like, if that's what they feel is more important, then that's what they feel is more important. But you cannot, the distinction is you cannot be upset that someone is, and you like, oh, you care about plastic straws, but you don't care about the kids after school, and you mad about it. Like, I can't support every single effort that there is, and that's just the reality situation.
I think we have to learn how to walk away. Like, it's okay. I think that's what we struggle with. I think we struggle with the all or none, and we don't know how to.
You either part of the solution or part of the problem.
We don't know how to just walk away and be like, you know what, I don't feel like dealing with that, and just walk away. But that's kind of hard.
You said something. You said you can't
be part of every.
Be a part. Yes, that's true. And I think that we come into the world shaped by our experiences to champion certain efforts that pertain to us. So the same way that I can't support it, I also can give people space and opportunity to do what they got to do. Amen. So if I want to be able to have freedom and space to advocate for my community and advocate for all my people, I'll also do the same and not remove space or try to take away space from other people advocating for their communities. And I think when we talk about communities or causes or initiatives or anything, I just feel like we got to really have the conversations that are pushing the progress forward in the black community. And there are some things that black people can't even get on one accord about. And we talk about how we're supposed to shut up. Exactly. There's a lot of stuff that we can't get in one accord about, and we want to, present ourselves as this united front. And then while we are that, I think there's times when we can create the united front. But there's a lot of things that black people do to each other and say about each other and say about each other's initiatives and causes and experiences that are very damaging. And I don't know if a lot of black people, will be comfortable in this space of just this one big black room where everybody can just come together and play patty cake and shit, because we're not all on the same page. So I feel like we're not
all on the same page about transgender.
Hold on. But why do you think that is, Tabari?
I understand that we have had a very hard plight, man. Like, a lot of people have generations have came against black people, and we are existing right now in the aftermath of our demise. And everything that we have done and created and become as a way of that, has been for survival and resistance. So I think even when I see black people, I'm like, well, how can you be? It's like, nah, how can you, nigga? There's a lot of reasons I could tell you how somebody can end up in like that. We've been through a lot of dirty, nasty, and oppressive, and beautiful things as well. But we end up on one side of the spectrum or any side of the life after we've been through all of these things. A lot of healing that has to happen. A lot of things that we just looked over and kind of pushed to the side and pushed under the rug. A lot of people we pushed out pushed to the margins within blackness. We push people out the way and say, this is the person that we're trying to support right now. So we're not tripping off nobody else. Because this is the black person we love at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So I just think we have to have a culture of seeing all of each other, seeing each other and allowing each other to show up and exist in ways that they want to be seen and show up. We can't tell black people how they want to be loved and what black love looks like for each of us, because black love is beautiful. It's this whole term that talks about us loving each other, but we all don't really have black love for all black people, and we stop loving a certain type of black people in a way. And I think that it's the what you're talking about, the idea that we all have to be on the same page and we start combating each other, and it can't even just be a conversation after a while. We really don't want to exist alongside some black people in our community, and it's hard because you can't ask people to stand next to their some of their oppressors sometimes, and oppressors do exist within a community. So you're asking me to sit next to someone who may have violated me or came against me, and we're all in the same community. So it's not an easy conversation to be had, and a lot of times we go up and roar when instances, beliefs, initiatives come into the community, and we all are on the same page about them. We want to argue, we want to dismiss each other and demean each other, but it's not usual that we can come and be like on this united front, because we are always having this battle internally and externally, and it's hard, and we exist within the demise of the aftermath of our demise.
Right on. I also want to say, even when we say stuff like that, and I agree with you totally, but I also think we got some enemies that have a lot of power, and when you talk bad about them, they can crush you, and they're supposed to be a marginalized people themselves.
Our enemies?
Yeah. I'm talking about there's a group, I'm just going to say it, like the gay group, the LGBTQ, group, they're very powerful. They're very powerful. And so if you come against them, it could cost you your job. It could cost you a lot of stuff. But we act like we're in the same group with them, but we're really not, because they have advanced their agenda than we have. And I don't know because
mentality.
I don't know because white men are ruling that. Because when white men, they're powerful in this country. White men, if a white man want to skate backwards, he's gonna come up with 50 laws, and we're gonna pass the shit because it's a white man.
But I
so they're
agree.
they're very powerful, and I have people that can attest to that.
And I would be very sure to like be clear when we're talking about this, to be sure when we're talking about black gay people and the black gay experience, because that's where my heart for the LGBT community comes from. My heart for LGBT, for that community and the queer community and black queer scholars and black queer teachers and educators who have put me on to the whole idea of gender inclusivity, I think comes from the black gay experience is a lot different from the white males that's up here achieving like the gay gender.
Absolutely.
It's different. And I didn't know it till I experienced it. You feel me? Through friends, through family members telling me their experiences, and being able to reckon with them myself. Like, yo, there's some things in the black community that pertain to all black people, including black gay people. And if we say that we love black people and we're going out to war for black people, then we're going to have an ear to hear, not feet to move, but an ear to hear what's really going on in that community.
Hold on, let me get my notebook. She preaching today, y'all.
Somebody was trying to
she
do
said
that.
an ear to hear, not a foot to move.
Not always.
You can't jump on every bandwagon
and be like, "What's going on?" Because I don't know, and you might have to educate me. But I do feel like we have to hear first. I wouldn't say that your feet should move. I just think we have to hear each other the same way when a little homie get at me like, "Yo, I just need somebody to listen to me," and that's really what established within me like this responsibility and accountability for ourselves is when you have the younger generation of people telling you something like, this is what we're living right now, we're alive right now in this moment, and we need support in a different way that we may have not had or seen in the past times, but these babies is crying out for love and support. And so I feel like we got to have an ear to hear when they cry out, when they tell us things in this way, and be able to differentiate the experiences from like these larger narratives that exist within these institutions about who we are as a people, because we come, like in all different ways.
We end up coming from all different perspectives.
Right on.
And what you said, I think, is so powerful and so profound, because they talk about the starting point. You have a certain starting point. When we talk about intersectionality, and meaning all these different parts of that make you who you are. You know what I'm saying?
They're working at one time.
Yeah, they're all working at one time, and you cannot separate them. it makes up who you are. Think of atoms, think of, you know what I'm saying? All of these parts make up who you are. I would not be the Juanita Butler that I am if I didn't become a mother at 21. I wouldn't be the Juanita Butler that I am if I didn't come from a divorced home. I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like all these parts of me, but that's kind of my experiences. But really in terms of intersectionality, it's, I'm a black woman. I'm a woman. I'm a black woman. I'm a tall black woman. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's all these different parts that make me who I am. But there's parts of me that go with what ideals match this community, this society, this nation. And then there's parts of me that don't.
Right.
And the parts that are ideal for this country is that you're supposed to be white, you're supposed to be male, you're supposed to be middle class or or upper middle class or something. You have a certain class that you're in. On top of the fact that you should be male, you should be white, you should be straight. You should be Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like these are key components. You gotta be able-bodied. You can't have no disabilities.
You gotta have a mind that has college education.
Yes.
You see past people.
So that's where all those isms come from. Absolutely. When we talk about ageism, when we talk about sexism, when we talk about racism, when we talk about what as deaf people experience autism. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? People who can hear and people who cannot hear. You have a certain privilege and a certain ability that limits and it puts up barriers between people. So America wants everybody to be white, male, Christian, and straight. And the further you get from that, the further disliked you are. So me being black, ooh, that's a mark. Me being a female, ooh, that's too bad. Ooh, if I'm poor, goddamn. Oh, you gay too? Oh, get up out of here. Like, you know, it just becomes this overwhelming feeling of you are not wanted in this space, and we're not creating these spaces for you.
Right.
So to be on, and we already know that a black woman is considered a double minority, you know what I mean? Because we don't have the privilege of being male, we don't have the privilege of being white. And that hits us as a double-edged sword, if you will. But having this, creating a space, as you said, having a listening ear and creating a space for all these different people to show up in their own spaces, to show up in what matters to them is important. But like you said, we do not have a collective consciousness for things that are specific within our communities. I think in general, America is wrapping their minds around transgender people and what they need and how we can support, again, maybe not having moving feet, but having a listening ear, because I'll be the first to be like, I'm not sure if I get it. I don't know if I get it. I don't know if I support. I don't know if I don't support. I'm like, when the conversation was about having open bathrooms, well, that didn't matter to me. I'm like, a toilet is a toilet. Everybody going to the bathroom. To me, that wasn't a big deal. But for some people, they was ready to go to war with Target. They was ready, they was upset, like, let me come out the bathroom and it's some old man in there with my young daughter. Like, I'm going to have an issue with that. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that we do have to create space. We have to be smart. We're obviously not going to try to put anybody in positions of like danger or anything, but I feel like that conversation is a conversation that we have to have. And there's so much that goes against black people in our belief system that we don't believe in folks being gay.
But I would say it's as much as it's our, what you said, it's we have to have the conversation. We have to also want to have the conversation. A lot of people don't even want to have the conversation because, like you said, a lot of people are homophobic in our black community. They don't have any type of information. Not even just homophobic. It's something that people don't have background experience with. And when we talk about, like, how are we going to imagine the future of blackness, imagine the future of black people, and where are we going to be post years from now? I would hate to say that I had a student or a mentee or someone come to me with an issue that was a part of a community that I didn't go with, so I couldn't talk about it, or it was like this idea that black people can't see each other unless they just like me. Yes. That's going to be a problem.
I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. I get where you're going. I hear you, Takara, but let me just tell you this. No, exaggeration is like when you try to make people be all things to all people. When I'm working with a boy, if I work with a boy and he has a particular issue that I don't understand, I don't say that I want to talk about it. Let me get you somebody that can address that for you. Because to me, that's much smarter than me trying to act like I know who they are and I'm going to help them. Yeah. And I think sometimes we talk in this, I'm a black woman. I'm a straight black woman who cannot be all things to all people. I am not Big Mama and I'm not Aunt Jemima. I'm not those two. And I'm not going to ever let nobody pit me. No. And I'm speaking for a lot of black women. That's why we don't end up in certain conversations, because it's this way of trying to make it when you're a straight black woman, when you're a straight fat black woman, there's this thing that we do in our community where she has to be all things to all people. Meanwhile, she's not getting any of her needs met. And historically, that has happened to black women. And so we'll stand up here and act like, well, we have all of these new groups and they need to be taken. When you haven't even taken care of the person who brought you into the world, which is why we see black women struggling and some of us tuning out, tuning totally out. There's some people who would rather go sit with their enemy than to be fucking with you, because I'm not saying you personally, but with us as a people, because we keep trying to make this person fit in this box and be like, you have to care about, because their issues is way harder than your issues, and you up here dying.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
No, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. And I know I'm not the only person hearing that, but sometimes when we get to talking about young people need all of this, well, young people come from adults, and they probably need the same goddamn thing. And just because you're young don't mean it's all about you and not the person who took care of you. That's why I think we have adults who don't know what to do to help young people, because they didn't get what they need.
And absolutely. And when I'm talking about gay people, I'm not taking out black women. I'm talking about black people. I'm not taking out black women. When I say black people, when I say black women, when I say black gay people, I know black women who are also part of this community. And it's not like every black person that's going to be affected or has this situation is going to have the information to have the conversation. So I'm not saying like, yo, everybody got to be tuned in on this phenomenon. What I am saying is we got black people that exist within these communities that are black and also gay, that are black and also woman and also gay, that we have to care about, that are black and also boy and also gay, or none of the two, that I feel like our approach can't be put it all on the black woman. I hope that's not how it's coming off.
Well, that's what it's always
been. What I'm
though.
saying though is that there are black women who can't be served properly because we're not having a gay conversation.
Amen.
There are black women. There are black older women who are gay. Like that's not.
There's black women who are older who are straight and they still don't get their stuff. Because you're making an assumption because somebody is straight that somehow they belong to some special kind of group.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that I agree that they are part of a group that is not that's overlooked collectively. There is overlooked collectively. But what I'm saying is, if we had a way, a magic potion to everybody, every black woman could drink it and it served you if you was black and woman and you would have no problem. Just hypothetically speaking, if there was a way that we could just erase all problems that was related to the black and the woman, that potion wouldn't work for the black woman and the gay. The black woman and the gay and maybe has a child, or there's not one solution to it, and we have to figure out a way that's going to create a solution that works for all of us. But we don't see each other in all of our spaces enough. So I'm not saying the energy that I would put toward trying to see and understand gay people, I give to black women, I give to black children, I give to black men. It's the way that we create. I think it's to go back to our conversation earlier. We create sometimes these lenses through each other, and we almost have to create lenses through each other's issues because we only trying to get because we have to get our own survival, and we have resisted, and we have to exist and resist at the same time. But I feel like I would never charge or how do I say I would never make a black woman feel bad about.
Thank you for signing. Go ahead.
Never have. Oh, that's what's up. Never have I would never go against a black woman for not being able to defend herself, because there's a lot of reasons why she's not able to. The same reason why when I see other people and I notice that. I see it almost because I am a black woman. I can see when you're being shut down, erased. I can see when you're being mistreated. I can see when people aren't making space for you because I'm a black woman and I've had that experience. So instead of being like, okay, I'm a black woman, so I can only make space for other black women who are just like me. It's like, no, I'm a black woman, and because I'm a black woman, I see things from a different lens, and I would never perpetuate something that was put out against me. I definitely have had doors closed in my woman, because doors closed in my face because I'm a black woman. As a student at a white campus, they don't even hear you when you talk. They look over me all the time, and I experience whiteness in a different way now at a university that affects us all. So I don't really have time to be like, I can only look out for the black people that's from Sacramento. That's why I went to Sacramento. That was at Davis at first. If you was from Sac, I wasn't hearing you. Like I'm from Sac, I'm from Sac. I don't know I'm from Sac. But it was my sister. It was my sisters and really my gay male friends from LA that was like, sis, I'm right there with you. I'm not from out here either. This some weird, absurd institution unconstitutional behaviors on my behalf too. And it took them to tell me like, yo, you a straight black woman, I'm a gay black man, and this is why our lives couldn't align. This is why our lives couldn't align. But it took me to sit down and go to war with them in the same way I had to let niggas know, like, I'm not here for the bull, you know? I'm here to make sure we can be seen, but they had to flip it back on me like, yo, I'm not your enemy.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming against you. And we fight the same
fight.
together. I'm here for black women too. I'm here for black men too. So and a lot of this, as I'm talking, I'm still learning. You know what I'm saying? I'm a professor. I'm still receiving information and how to make the application of said real. But I would say that I learned that, like, my first black teacher, the first black teacher that changed my life I used to date was a black gay woman. And I couldn't even wrap my mouth like, damn. Like, she's so fucking dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it about her that's so dope? And it came out that she was all these things, but that was also her sexuality and her sexual desire wasn't the forefront of her position on campus.
And
like,
they had to create their whole identity.
Who you was sleeping with, who you was messing with, at the end of the day was your personal business. This black woman came and she was a black woman and she was just there as an educator and she showed up and it was like her identity and who she was. It came out afterwards, you know. But black people don't even know each other enough to say, I know what your favorite color is, because I won't even ask you if you're gay, or I won't even know your favorite food.
I don't disagree with you,
we just gotta get to know each other.
But I don't really think that's how it works for some of us. And I'm sorry to say something.
That's
cool, reality. Because even though I was from North Philly, when I met black folks from all over the globe, I just seen black. So I didn't have that. I wasn't tribalist. I wasn't a tribal person. No, I wasn't a tribal person. I was like, it's just about Philly. I was never like that. If that was the case, I'd be somewhere else right now. So I was never ever like that. But I've got to be honest. When I meet black women, I don't really give a damn who you fucking with. I think that's where it becomes a problem for me. I don't have to tell people who it is I'm involved with for you to get all of me. And you don't even have to know that about me till you get to know me personally. For me. Right. So for me, it's not like, oh my God, because the first big boss, I worked for a whole bunch of lesbian women. And the part about them that I didn't like in their lesbianism was their anti-black man stance. Here I am, a young 19-year-old, totally impressionable, but I knew that was wrong. I loved how powerful they were. I loved how they assisted in helping us build clinics so that black women could have healthy birth outcomes and help me with my dream. But I did not like their stance when it came to black men. Absolutely. And I watched them hate against women who were married to men. Yes. And so we don't want to look at that part. Because I love them as black women. No. I'm just saying, I agree. But sometimes you say, you know what, thank you for this gift, because I learned so much from those women. They are a part of my design. I just don't deal with the other shit. It's like, and I know gay people who are hella cool and be like, you know, I want to respect. It's like people who smoke weed. I don't smoke weed, but I don't be like, I can't be fucking with niggas because they smoke weed. I be like, yes, I don't smoke that shit here. You can smoke that when you get here. Right. It's that I think we've lost the mutual respect. We be so trying to get to whatever this oneness is that don't exist. And then be like, hey, that part I don't do, and that's all good. I think we have a hard time respecting each other's stance, and it comes off disrespectful when people don't want to be dealing with your stuff. Right. And I feel like that's a hard thing.
And it is hard. I think it's hard because we don't know how to do that. You know, we don't know how to agree to disagree. We do over white people. We haven't seen we don't. Then I will clarify my statement. We don't do that with each other because it'd be hard to come into our space and be like, yo, I mess with you enough, but not really. And we be like something so small. And I think this is to talk about the degree of patience and compassion that needs to be increased with each other in the black community, like just for each other. And how you have to embody that when you come into predicaments where it's going to take more work to really rock with black people. It takes, and I've watched women that, you know, have helped us in our life take their time with us. You know, it was never what you need right here. All right, get away from me. Like, nah, it's going to be a long story of needs. It's going to be a long history of, like, traumas that we got to unpack. It's all a lot of work and time. So I feel like everything in time can be achieved. But the respect piece, I feel like, is the hardest piece because we are pressed for time. We don't always have time to sit down and be like, yo, this is my beliefs. This is why I need people to support me. And this is why I appreciate my work. She always asks, well, what you need from me? Like, specifically, you know what I'm saying? What you need from me? But it's hard to have that conversation when we are fighting against the system and all these different, we all know the condition of blackness and how we got to fight to exist. So after we can just be, then we have to be well. And then how do you be well after you just fought to just be here, you know? So I think the timing around it all, the compassion, the genuine desire to make sure that, you know, I'm good, and because what I got to do to make sure I'm good is connected to your well-being, I'm also trying to make sure you're good, and because my well-being is also connected to your well-being, I make sure you're good, and I wouldn't let nobody trample over you in traffic and not stop that and say, you stepping on my man's right now. Hold on, man, back off him. It's a way that we show up for each other that takes time. It's informed by an experience that you have with each other. That takes time. You know, it's not gonna be like, yo,
I think about, let me just say this, and I'm gonna let you go there. I think about the black women that I know are older than me, and they didn't get what they needed.
Right.
They shit got skipped right over. We were on to the next immediate group that's the trend.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to clown. So sometimes when I see people talking about, like, somebody one time told me that I was privileged, and I was like, well, because you're straight. Dude, do you know how people shit on me because I am a straight black woman and I'm a big black woman? How people just assume who the fuck I was? Right. It's like, dude, I don't even do none of that shit. You know what I mean? I mean, where does this come? How do you make this assumption about me? You don't even know me. Right. Now, maybe that's happened to your mama. That's what you do with your mama, but I'm not your mama. You can't treat me like that and be like, it's okay, because, you know, no. What if I like my dick a certain way? You know what I'm saying? No, really, what if I want certain things attached to that? Do we talk? We just think it's just a penis, like, or everybody. No. Some people have to wait.
Straight, now
yeah,
I feel it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of when I hear, I'm like, wait a minute, what are we talking about here? And because that was not my experience.
Look, and we wouldn't know that.
I don't even know what we're talking about now. I just want y'all to know that.
No.
So we're talking about how we don't see each other and how we assume things. Yep. In this conversation, we make assumptions about each other, how we show up. In this conversation, this debate about, you know, how are we identifying and how are we collectively identifying. And so when we have to collectively identify, it's ways in which we don't really meet all of the intricacies of the word. The
intricate parts. Yeah.
Is there a word though? Is it a noun form?
But the way you said it made it a word.
Intricacies? The intricacies, you know what I'm saying? The intricacies. I thought intricacies was right. But, you know, it's ways that we up in here intricate, and we can't see everybody unless we're going to get the time. But before I can wrap it up on my point was that it was like, you can't say that the way white male privilege, straight, heterosexual, what they call it, cisgender, heteronormative privilege applies to a black woman the same way it applies to a white man. And I think when we have these conversations about how are we correcting our gender phobias in the black community, we're not talking about it in the grand scheme of things that like us though. Like they can have conversation about it over there. They're producing a lot of literature on the topic now because people are coming into it. But all the time we're missing that story. Yep. So we as the history keepers, as the truth keepers and the story keepers and the culture keepers have to go further out the way to make sure that we are maintaining the truth about who we really are. They can't just say all straight people got privilege and we got straight people that's getting, you know what I'm saying, beat down by the system. Right. And it takes a black person to come and say, I'm going to tell the story from this way. And that's why we got to uplift our black scholars that's doing the queer shit. That's talking about this. Because I want the real story for us. Tell me the story from our perspective. And then I might feel it a little differently. And that's what happened. I had to hear from black gay people like, yo, sis, you the truth. But if you're not really messing with us like this, then you're not, you know what I'm saying? So I would just, to your point, Mom, I'm going to wrap it up. I would just say that it takes more time and our ability to tell our story from our narrative on every topic is key. We're going to have to keep it from the black point because I'm a black person, so I got to hear it from the black point. Me too. And when we hear it from the black point, it's easier to have the more general conversations.
Yeah, that was a lot.
That was a lot. And I just want to say some of the comments because I was trying. I had a few of my deaf friends who had like joined right now, but they weren't able to.
Tina, I think came. Go ahead.
They weren't able, obviously, to follow the conversation because we still don't have our closed caption set up.
No, I'm sorry.
So we have Wormy who told me that he's gonna look and find that program because he knows of that program, but I don't know what it's called. We know, we've heard, but we can't find it. I don't know what it's called. So I'm getting his help with that. And I had another of my friends. She's an interpreter herself, and she said you are interpreting for the fastest talker in the world. That's you.
I'm so sorry.
And that's why I said we have to slow down. No, it's her.
I'm a poet though.
I'm like very fast. But even when you can't be like the lady. I can't. But you have a lot of points. But even the hearing person is gonna miss them because of how fast. Like I said, when you in church and you be like, hold on, I gotta go back. Did I catch that? Like he said that so brilliantly or so profound.
I'm apologizing for that because that's not even something I kept in mind. Talk about
what your sign language. We're sorry. Which how you say apologize?
But anyways, I wanted to add to that conversation because honestly, that is exactly what happened to me. Me feeling like I'm black, I'm a female, I have these kinds of oppressions, I have specific experiences that I have. right? That other people can't really, they can't see it. They don't experience, they don't have the same perspective as I do. But then after I had gone to school, like how you're talking about, and then I opened, don't worry about it, it's fine. I opened my mind and I learned about something different than me. And with the open heart, like really willingness to understand their perspective and where they're coming from, how they have developed and became the people that they are, or the collective or the community that they have right now. So again, first, I do think that it starts with willingness. You have to be willing to have those conversations and not be just combative and be argumentative. It's about being really able to trying to understand their perspective.
Absolutely.
When I learned about deaf people, deaf culture, their history, what they've experienced and gone through, I didn't compare with my experience. I understood their experience.
Well,
you know what
yours.
I mean? And that's yours. That's not mine. But then adding to what you said, Ro, that made me see that I had privilege. I have privilege in plenty of other things that I can harp about them. True. The things that are not equal for me. But the reality is that I have real privilege in the other parts of my life that show up all the time. That other people, and again, when we talk about privilege, it's not just like, oh, my life is just good and there's nothing wrong. Like, you know what I mean? When we talk about privilege, it's like, I don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to this restaurant and I wonder if they have a ramp that's wide enough for my wheelchair.
I get that.
You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about that because I get out my car and I walk in and
they're going to have an interpreter that can sign for me.
I don't have to worry about, oh, they're going to have an interpreter there for me to understand the conversation, for me to see if I want to get involved with this organization that's establishing now. How do I even know? I'm just unaware because I don't have access.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when we talk about privilege, we're talking about not only economic privilege. That's not only what we're talking about, money and what class that you're in. Like, you know what I mean? We talk about just different experiences that you have. If you're being gay and you're like, oh, I wonder if someone's going to notice me, if they're going to recognize me from whatever little meeting I went into, or, you know, if you're keeping it kind of private that of your sexuality. Right. If you're curious or if you're scared that that's going to be exposed, maybe you don't go out to those things. Like, you get what I'm saying? So there's just so many parts of, again, intersectionality when we talk about it that people have to be aware of. And if you're aware of yours, then you can be compassionate to other people. I think that's what you were saying, is that as you learn more about yourself, as you learn more about what you want to aspire to be or become or get involved with, you have to also, you have to know that, like, okay, it's not only me. And like you said, maybe I'm not joining your fight, but I respect your fight. Right. And I give you that opportunity to have that space to fight for what you feel is
you have to fight for it yourself, you know?
But I think respect is something really different. I think you could not deal with people and still have respect for them. That's all I'm saying. Because I think sometimes we be on some other stuff. Having respect for somebody is different than they struggle. You know, sometimes I go places, I just want to be respected as a human being. I don't want them to be in my fight for me to get my hair done or whatever the hell. Right. It's just that how do you respect somebody, period. And to me, that's a common courtesy. Right. But we don't really talk about that. Right. That's all I'm saying. And I just
so if we can read some comments, you want to take some time to read some comments?
Well, Sister Yemaya says she has a son that is deaf and he's 27 years old. That's why she thanks you for signing.
Oh, word.
I have to go back.
Wait, would you say it again?
Yemaya says that thank you for signing earlier. And then she says she has a son who is deaf and he's 27.
Well, tell your son if he knows about that closed captioning program. we would appreciate his help in getting that information.
I would definitely like to learn more sign language because I know the alphabet, but I don't know the rest of the, you know, the gestures. I would love to incorporate that in my classroom.
What you gonna say?
Well, Velma, she commented and she said, so Velma, she is a teacher for deaf. She's a deaf teacher in Oregon, right, Velma? I think she's still teaching. But anyways, she appreciated me signing too. You know, I love you. And she said that's why we have a connection. Me and her. She was my first deaf friend, y'all. Oh, Velma was my first deaf friend. And I remember because she was an older woman. She was already a mom of like 4 kids during that time. Anyways, she was already a mom. Oh, my bad. And that's the camera. Yeah, I'm trying to just set it up.
I'm trying to get your face in it. But
no, you're fine. So she was already a mom and she was already an adult person. She knew sign language already, obviously. But she was in an ASL1 class. And I had met her in ASL1. So imagine, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny, but I mean, it's like us. We grown and born black our whole life. And then I'm taking my first
African American studies class.
African, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
African American studies class, and you like, you don't know none of this, like, you know. But so I remember thinking, why are you taking this class? Like, you already are a fluent signer. But she wanted to know the linguistics behind her language, because when it's like those people who grow up hearing and speaking Spanish, but they ain't never written it a day in their life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they don't know how to read it. They don't know how to write it. So when they go to Spanish 1, they're not there to learn about how to speak it. They're there to learn the linguistics behind it. And so that was her goal. And now she's a teacher and teaching other people sign language. So she has that like rooted in her from having a family who's deaf, from having everyone just, you know, having that opportunity of knowing the language growing up. But now she is teaching it from the academic perspective, but plus still with a cultural root, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense.
So I appreciate you.
It's a trusted source.
Oh, girl, you got
you know what I'm saying? We had to search it to Instagram one time.
Hello, JB, you know.
About too, you know.
I already said interpreter, babe. Y'all can follow me later. We'll add that.
I love that though. So this brings me to this thing around female leadership, and is it possible for us to have positive female leadership where basically, I'm talking about black women in particular, is it possible for us to support each other?
Absolutely.
Even in our differences, because you know, I love you. I may not agree with all this stuff, but I'm always supporting you.
I have been supported by some of the most phenomenal black women in my life. And I say that sitting next to one of them. And I say that with a full heart of faith and truth that we are our own solution. And that's why I feel that I am so pressed to make sure that black women on the same page with nobody else. Because we are the leaders that's going to produce the next generation of leaders. And first, like female leadership, I also feel like that comes out. So like, what's the personality characteristics of strong female leaders? And what are the ways that we are alike and the ways in which we are different? It's a conversation that can be had on a large scale. But when we just look at black women, like I know and am a very strong-minded black woman. And so when we come into these positions and when we come across folks who are also strong and black and women, and how do we support each other and how are some of the battles? So I kind of wanted to talk about this today just because I feel like I'm a young woman who's coming into relationships, who's coming into fellowship with older women who are, you know, trailblazers in their respective field. But when you come to just to get to know them as people, it's very hard to want to work with them. And it's very hard to want to...
No, I'm laughing because you
ain't never lied.
I feel you.
It's a
That's why I'm
real
laughing.
conversation to be had.
I'm laughing, but it's true.
And I was raised by, you know, black women who taught me how to respect black women just for what they've been through. When you see a black woman, that's somebody's mama off GP, that's somebody's auntie, that's somebody's, you know, grandmother, so you give them that respect, and I always will want to give that respect. But now we are at an era where there are black people who have been fighting so hard to be in these positions that they don't want to give them up. And they gatekeeping on progress. And I just feel like we have to have a conversation about how are black women, as we are black women, like how are we having a conversation about achieving and advancing our culture, given, you know, our perspective, leadership styles, and the way that we have been marginalized, and ways that we can't come out of our marginalization and the trauma of marginalization to be these leaders that we are without turning around and, you know, perpetuating the same institutional shit. So I wanted to ask y'all for real. That was my question for the show, because I'm engaging more with older black women. I'm engaging more with, you know, older black people who I can love and care about, and even younger women. I think there are some phenomenal sisters that's my age that we gonna have to learn how to rock right now before we get to be these older women. I don't want to be a bitter old black woman who
Girl,
is, you know, I don't want to be her. But when you work around people, they make you could become bitter, and I don't want to be that. So
I wanted to be like Miss Dina, who smelled good and she sold Avon, and she always would have the latest like. Because every time you would see it, she would be so happy, and she would be stylish, and she just always seemed so happy.
Right.
I wanted to be that person because she was much older than me, but you know she had her cakes and shit. So anyway, I'm sorry. There's some women I want to be. I think for me, I learned earlier that I really love black women. Even if we crazy as hell, I still love us. But I also, as I got older and as I worked, because I've always been around a lot of older women all the time. Like I think that's why I just had a kind of distinction. But I also allow myself to feel hurt by them and then get my ass and keep going. I try not to make it ever so personal where I want to be in the same space with them just to cuss their ass out. Because I've seen people do that too. Where they be like, I don't like her ass, and we get in there, I'm going to tear her ass up. Like, I've seen people say that. I'm like, what's your purpose of going to this meeting? Or even go to church just to talk about what the person wore? I just kind of realized that even though I love black women, the art of just walking away.
Absolutely.
That saved me because I just didn't. Everything is not a discussion. It's like if that's the way. Like when I have to deal with colorist people, when I have to, I think color is really because I've seen that destroy people. I've seen it absolutely destroy.
That's the Negro's greatest enemy.
Colorism.
Yeah, I watched it destroy people and have people doing stuff. But you be like Little Kim. Not trying to be funny. That's the one we know on the big screen. She definitely had an issue that came from somewhere. She didn't just wake up one day and thought she was ugly and she wanted to look like a Chinese woman whose face was messed up. I don't know. But it's
please don't
you
get
know,
started.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But
she just dropped the album though.
Yeah.
And baby still got the bars. Okay,
good.
She going through a lot up here.
Yeah.
Up here. But baby got it in here.
No, I love her. But I'm just saying, like when you look at
still got them bars. She got bars. She got bars.
But she just can't be dancing at the same time.
I'ma listen. I'ma listen because I'm judging already.
So y'all, I don't know. I'm not a Lil' Kim fan. So
I'm a rapper though.
I'm gonna appreciate that.
I'm gonna have to get
I don't know. I want Lil' Kim.
Lil' Kim got
bars. Hang it up.
I'll say this. No. I'll say this. Even though I can feel some way about a black woman, I'm still gonna stand up and defend her. And I've done that before. Where I was like, I don't even like this bitch. But when I see people coming for her, I was like, No. But even her, even the other sister that's the Republican that people hate, I always defend their right just to be. Because sometimes I think we hate on them because they are black women.
Exactly, it's easy to do that and have that and to go on their back and to be all. It's like
Candace Owens. I do. I be like, well, that's Candace is right.
Yeah.
I may not agree. I agree with some of her shit. Some of the stuff I don't agree with. But that's her right as a black woman. I know people come for her not because what she's saying is wrong, but because she's a black woman saying it.
And even to your point earlier, I'm speaking slow.
No, you fine. I just can't. Hey, Candy. I can't support Candace.
No, I'm not asking you to.
I can't support asking you to because what she does is
I'm not asking you
to.
But if she was a white woman, we're not even saying the white woman's name. We always on her because she is a black woman. That's my point. You just made my point for me. But go ahead, Takara.
No, I didn't. I'm saying I can't support her because what she
I'm not asking you to support her. I'm asking you to respect her. Like, I disagree with you, sis, but I respect you as a human being. You don't have to, but you want us to respect other communities. See, we just talked about being at the table. You're making my great point. You're talking about let everybody be at the table in their full self, but we're not going to let her be at the table as her full self. That's a problem.
No, here's my thing. Who said it? You gonna correct me. Was it Malcolm X? Was it Malcolm X who said, you can have all your rights until your rights impede on my rights? Who said that? I feel like it was Malcolm X.
Could you turn that down a little bit, please?
Anaya.
That's because she's a kid. She
turn that down.
Thank you, baby. Okay,
that you can have all of your rights and everything until they impede upon mine, right? And then I feel like he got that really from Frederick Douglass. When Frederick Douglass said, "I stand here as a thief and a criminal," isn't that what he said? Because I stole my right to be a person, because I stole my life from my slave master.
Right.
So I stand here as a thief and as a criminal. But the reality is that I'm not coming for nobody's rights. You have every right to do what you want to do until what you're doing
do she really have the right to do anything to you? I think not.
No, she's not.
Right.
That's
so
what
my
I'm saying.
point is that we just got finished talking this whole thing about inclusivity and see how much of it we're such hypocritical people.
No, I'm
and
not.
And then we get to her who is straight black woman who's a Republican who rolling with the team she chose, and I don't give her the right to say, hey, sis, I disagree with some of the stuff I agree with, she says, by the way. Some of the stuff I don't. But it's like, hey, she's a part of the family. She's a black woman. For me.
Marcus Garvey also said everybody can't come to Africa with us.
But I will say this. I will say that it is times where we talked about earlier, when you asked me why you think we were at the predicament we have right now, the condition that we have right now, that we have ended up, after all of the BS and the oppression and everything, we ended up somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
No, just
on
right.
the other end of that. Like somewhere,
that's where she ended up.
Hella close to progress and liberation, or could be
back.
right here, really close to some slavery shit still. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard.
That's
we just ended up over here. You know, we're just still alive. So I think when we have people like Candace Owens, we have people like Stacey Dash, we have people like what's the other Don Lemon. You have all these black faces who represent a lot of blackness for white people. So they say things to white people. When Candace Owens talked to me, when she talks, I don't necessarily listen to her the same way that I listen to women who impact me. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with that.
Touch my heart. I just hear and be like, yeah, no.
I'll be saying myself,
I've never posted anything against her.
Me either.
I've never made comments directly attacking Candace, because Candace is a byproduct of this bigger thing. And I think we talk about the implicit biases and how we exist within biases. But the truth is that we can come against her. We can go against Kanye. We can go against all these people that are not really doing much for the culture, for us, but they doing something for white people that's paying them. So I would never, ever, ever use Candace Owens as an example of female leadership for me, because she's not my leader. You know what I'm saying? The same way I would never ever look to
what you're
Hillary
saying,
Clinton.
you show respect by ignoring her?
I show respect by refusing to tear her down in the media.
Right,
I show respect by refusing to share public opinion against a black woman. I show respect by making sure that when you ask me what's up, I'll give you my opinion. And I'll show I don't agree with her, but I would never go out of my way the same way I never post anything about Lil Kim, Blac Chyna, because at the end of the day, they represent blackness for somebody. And not to say that that's okay, and I vouch for that, or I say.
But why would you want that representation?
I don't give a damn who they represent for. For them, they don't represent for me. What I'm saying.
Right no, right. But those people, like you said, for some people, Blac Chyna, that's the average black girl, right? Blac Chyna, as in the representation of certain black people who, when they be like, oh, it's black women who is in all the music videos, who only going for, the rich, they going for the niggas.
It's the way that we do that. It's the way that we do it for them. It's the way we do it for us. So if you was my sis and you got me messed up, I'm coming to you right here like this.
Yup.
Sis, you out here looking real disrespectful on my behalf.
But why you don't respect that she want her titties out, that she wants to sit here with all the plastic surgery, why you can't respect that?
I would, and I could and I will. That's why Meg Thee Stallion go crazy, because Meg Thee Stallion is a sister who shows her body and sells her body, but she controls her narrative. And you really get into her lyric composition, my sister got game. So we tripping off of how, and this go back to respectability politics within black community. There's a certain, this goes back to respectability politics within the black community, where we tell black people it's a way that you can show up and I support you. We respectfully.
There's a way that you can show up and I can support you, even if I have opposing views.
But
absolutely.
But no, I'm not agreeing to that. I'm saying that that's wrong, because then you telling the sister that the respectability politics is like, I can only allow you to be yourself if I respect you. Like, if you're somebody that I can get with.
That I choose to be respectable.
That's the politic part, right?
I get what you're saying.
So I can politic on what I deem to be respectable, then I can respect you or not respect you. So that's the politic of respect, where it's like, I only respect if I want to. It's like, that's not fair, because then you got
you're not a respectable
that
person.
Come up, consider to somebody don't think I'm respectable. Somebody think right now, because my body, I don't know, I'm cool right now, but on another day, I might be the sister that's fly up in here with the cleavage all over the place, you know what I'm saying? And women, I have had women look at me, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this little dirty hussy, not even knowing who I am for real in the community or whatever else. They just see my boobs and think I'm a hoe. So it's hard and to the sister that's a hoe, you do your dougie, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like we have to have more space. We have to have more space.
Do you, hoe? It's not right.
Because sex workers get bread for whoever they're doing it for. And what would you do if your son was at home crying all over the bathroom for hungry? And the only thing to do was to put in for a little bit of money, and that was all. So I was never the type to say, like, sis, it's
I've never been against that. Okay, we just don't, just as a side note, I just gotta have a moment.
I really gotta finish my statement.
I'm sorry.
You good? I was about to say that it's nothing wrong with like telling black women, because I'm oftentimes, let's say I'm done, I'm oftentimes the only other black woman in the room, or if not the only one. So it'd be me and a sister who's the exact polar opposite to my black experience that I have to support. And it'd be like the weird sister from Nebraska who ain't never been, you know what I'm saying, who ain't never been in the black space before, and she on some weird shit, and I'm up in here like, and you're like, she a black woman though, she a black woman, so I gotta fuck around and support her, so it's like, I gotta figure out ways to show up for black women, and it's always changing, and the way that we show up, not just for black women, for black people, it's always changing, so I'm trying to get to a position where I can be that resource to be her for her. Like, okay, she know every other black person in the room probably clowning her, getting on her shoes, or making her feel stupid about her hair or something, so I have to be, and I do feel, I say I have to be because I've always, like, had to, be the weird one. I'm supporting the weird one, or I'm the weird one, like the one where black people does not agree with me because I think differently. So it's like, I know and see that the respectability politics removes our ability, to show up for black people in different ways.
I get that.
So I'm not gonna say that, oh, if your boobs out, I can't be there for you, because it's gonna be a little black sister that don't know how to dress or don't know how the idea what we think is how to dress, and she gonna need me in a real way. And it's gonna be a sister that got them white beliefs, them white ideologies in her mind, that believe all the wrong stuff about black people, that's gonna need me in a real way. So I can't say, oh, if you agree with white people, or if you on this tip, or if you on that, I can't fuck with you. At the end of the day, I see you as a victim of your conditioning.
See, that's real adult. That's adult, but that's real understanding. Because even in war, I watch white people be against other white people, but know how to support them.
Right.
And you don't even know that that's their arch enemy. You be like, I thought y'all was cool.
Italy or Russia don't even get along, but they on our back. They are colonizers, though. They are at war with each other, but they join forces to come against them. Yep. So how do we do that as black people?
And that's what we were talking about. But that's what. But my feelings is that everybody who brown ain't down, right?
Absolutely.
So with that being said, why would I put my effort into collectively putting you into my circle and making you make sense with what I'm trying to do and push the agenda with what I'm trying to do for my collective, for my people, when you're not even for that?
Because if I don't
have, I'm gonna leave you where you at.
But if you don't have,
just because you got that brand,
leaving them where you at also means that I'm
creating another enemy.
I'm risking you for a casualty. That's a casualty.
That's a casualty.
But you gotta deal with it. I don't think it's always the same way of dealing with people. But I'm gonna have to come to your corner, even if it's the same nigga stay right here and don't fuck up shit. You know, because he might mess it up if you don't talk to him. Love him a little bit, like yo, stay in your corner, but we rocking, and you gotta give everybody the game plan. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if we're not included in it, then we can't contribute. And his contribution might be to stay out the way. Her contribution just get out the way.
She might be a distraction while we go through the real work.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody got a place. I just
kind of get that.
The people,
you don't feel like,
because I got white friends. I got friends that's not white friends. And I say white friends, and this is probably wrong. I'm talking about my mixed black friends that's really resonate more with their white side, and they always trying to make me have compassion for white people. You know what I'm saying? So I said, you know what? You might just be the motherfucker we got to send in first. Just before we go blow up, we gonna send you first, because I don't agree with that. I'm gonna send Candace in first. Go ahead, Candace.
Shut your mouth. That's real talk.
Bump elbows with them, and I'm gonna come in with the rifle on their ass before they can see it happen. But I'm sorry.
No.
Trust.
She.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
I was like,
I just opened up. I got more comfortable.
No, but I think that's also a part of expression. But that's just me.
Okay,
if I would have my,
cussing
why I gotta fix my dress, Juanita?
You want to fix
my dress, Juanita?
No, I hear what you guys are saying. It's not that I don't disagree, but I do feel like there is a distinction, and I feel like, again, having a collective and having a certain, what makes you like-minded is that we have the same goals. You know what I'm saying? That's what's making us like-minded. That's what's allowing us to come together, is because we have similar goals. We have and maybe we don't have the similar approach, but our end result is the same.
Absolutely.
So, but what I'm saying is that when other people have end results that do not look like your end results, y'all still saying, well, just let them be part of the crew.
No,
and I'm like,
not part of the crew, but your strategy has to include the crew.
I'm aware of you.
That's what it is. I'm saying. So
okay.
the strategy has to be inclusive of everybody, and we thank you so much.
I got you.
And we also have to have ways of we can't act like they don't exist. And we can't erase it and dismiss them because they don't agree with us. Because they're there. And there will be a liability. That's the word, not casualty. A liability if we don't address them. And because we're creating enemies, but we're also overlooking members of the community. So I'm here for it. And even in this whole conversation I had with my sister about, predators. And how
Patrice says, yes, learn how to support black folks and not include them in your agenda.
It's a strategy, but it's a strategy.
So white people, they go to war. They don't send their top white people. They send the dirty ones who ain't got no plan. That's who be on the front lines of the war. Right. They don't send the senator's son.
Yeah,
ain't on the front
that's
line.
That's why the poor white people don't never know that they really are the ones who. It's like y'all are just being used as pawns against black people, against Mexican people, because
their whiteness outweigh that argument. They say I'd rather be white than be black.
Well, no, but I'm saying, that's the white folks' mentality. That's their strategy. We're gonna use the people who don't have, the people who are the workers, because again, like I've already said, the U.S. has always been established as slaves and masters. That's what it is. And like I said before, whether we're looking at slaves, whether we're looking at industrial workers, all the way now to cubicle workers. America produces workers. That's what they do. They produce workers, and it's got to be somebody working, and it's got to be somebody facilitating, managing it at the top. And you'll never get the in between that. It's because that's just the way America is set up. So what I'm saying is that the white folks, the 1%, the 5%, the 10%, are using the other ones, the poor whites, to be, like you said, you the one on the front line.
Right.
It ain't us. We way far back. We up in the house creating the X's and O's.
Right.
But y'all the ones that we have y'all right in the front. And
Hans, you feel me?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So for those who know what I mean when I'm getting ready to say the mathematics, we know that 5% of the people are the poor righteous teachers, the 10% is the bloodsuckers of the poor, and the 85% of the dumb, deaf, and blind. That's for people who understand science.
Can you say that again?
That's old school. 5% of the people know what's going on. They're the poor righteous teachers.
5% of the people, the population in the country, 5% they understand what's happening.
Of the population on the
poor
globe.
Righteous teachers.
Are poor righteous teachers. 5% of the people on the globe are poor righteous teachers. They know what's going on. The 10% of the people on the globe are what you call the bloodsuckers of the poor. Them the ones who drain people. They're the masterminds. They're the ones who come up with all this slave system shit. And then
in support of who though?
In support of their own 10%. That's what's saying the 10%. The 85% of the people, which is the rest of us, are the dumb, deaf, and blind. And that's who the 10% have to keep dumb, deaf, and blind. And they keep them away from the 5%. Because if we were all thinkers,
interesting,
this shit would look very different. If we were really thinkers and thought the school was a dangerous place, we wouldn't send our goddamn kids there. But because the 10% make you believe you have to be in this system. Because we're going to open your mind and teach you to think the way we want you to think. We're going to make you public people. Mm-hmm. We're going to kind of make you cattle. We're going to make you go for a job, not for ownership, we don't want to teach you to govern themselves. I tend to think some of the other cultures, I don't think they know the math, but I think they understand somewhat of the history and be like, we're going to go and set up our own shit. And you constantly see them. I even see Africans doing it from the continent. They go set their own little stuff up. It don't mean that they don't want to get out. They come here for the opportunity. But I think if you really want to know the history of America, just study the black folks.
Right.
That's all you gotta do is study us, and you'll see the formula. Like, okay, we can't do this. We gotta do this.
James
no, we can't give up. We can't give up our language because then we're gonna be defenseless. We can't.
America is only as good as the weakest chain. Basically, you gotta look at. You don't gotta talk to the person who's sitting at the top with the world at their feet. And what do you think of America?
The success of the country based on. You know what? Somebody else told me that too. That's like America great, but y'all got a hell of homeless people there.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
But you know,
James Baldwin said you gotta find that homeless, you gotta find that black person, you ask them what do you think of America,
you don't
and
have
that's what
America
America is.
countries. A man said on the NPR, he said, if I had to be homeless, I'd rather be homeless in America because you could be fat and poor at the same time. And other people, that's an oxymoron. You should be poor,
you have no food,
you have nothing.
Right.
And somebody got
that's
mad.
not true though. Because in Mexico,
did.
you could live in the most rural parts of Mexico, but all you eating is
beans
and tortillas that you making. You gonna have some weight on you. You gonna have some.
But you know
what I'm saying? Like it because it's fat. Like your body.
Everybody know in America we have subsidies. Those countries don't have subsidies.
They don't have
you have families, right?
They don't have government systems,
right?
But
what I'm saying in America, we do have subsidies. We will give you money and say you can't have certain people in your family, and I'm only gonna feed you if you do what I say. We watched that with the welfare system.
In Stockton, with our black, is that a man? But I'm over here showing my...
The young one?
The young black, he's a mayor, right? Young black mayor in Stockton. He's giving $200. He just started a pilot program to give $200 to the homeless in Stockton. And he gives them $200 free money every single month. And it's like a certain amount of people. I don't know exactly what the number is of people that he's offering this money to, but it's helping their communities and and they found in their research and their studies what they're doing right now, real time, is that it's helping these people, that they're able to feed. And really what you notice too is that the poor will go and feed their other friends. The ones like, I got the 200, but you didn't get it this time. But
how do we stop them from being homeless? How do we, because that itself sounds sad. That you will come to a place, I'm gonna be homeless, I'm gonna go to Stockton, at least I can get $200. Why don't people have a place to live? Right. Why we don't have affordable housing? Right. Why don't we have have home
because
ownership.
America is only about.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is, I'm not
you're
asking
right. You're
for
right.
answers.
But saying, but the solution comes from bigger stuff.
So, yeah,
right.
so it's like in America do that. They'll be like, well, that's why I said we have subsidies, but do the subsidy help people? I remember in California, there was a time when you was on welfare, you could go to college for free and earn something.
Right.
They quickly stopped that when people started catching on. It's like, but damn, the person
still
on
go to college
welfare,
for free
and
if
they
you're on
no,
welfare.
when you was on welfare and at home, they had child action only exists.
It's called it does exist.
But my thing of it is, why more of us don't take advantage of it since we're trying to get out of this predicament? What they did, I was there when they rolled out the welfare program where they won't add, you can't add no more kids. Yeah, and hold on, and when they cut your check down, so if you have another child, you can't add that kid onto you. You know that, right?
No, you can't.
No, you really can't. But
no,
it's okay.
I've interpreted many Department of Human Assistance. Everywhere.
How much are people getting for welfare with one child? Help me out.
I mean, if I give you exact numbers, I can't.
No, give me numbers. Like, do they get 500 kids? Like, because there was a time in California where welfare was like having a real job, and that's people came to California to get on welfare. I remember that was in the early '90s because I worked at the Birthing Project. What I'm saying to you is, people don't even make enough to even pay their rent.
No, I agree with that. What I'm saying is my understanding of Department of Human Services and how they're working now in terms of governmental assistance. Not to say that if you have a child, you can always add a child to your case. You can always,
you get more food stamps.
You get more coverage in general. Yes, but what I'm saying is that what they have changed and what they implement now at this point is that you have a 5-year limit. It's a 5-year limit. So you might have just had I have a child, right? And me and that child, they get you'll get food stamps forever, you get Medi-Cal forever. But in terms of cash aid, getting actual money, so that's what I'm saying is getting actual money, it caps out at 5 years. Now, if my child is 4 and I'm pregnant, I'm about to start that clock over for a new child. You get what I'm saying? Your other child now that's 5 and older going to school age now is not being counted in terms of cash aid money, but you're still getting food stamps for them. You're still getting other sort of benefits for them. So it is, at the end of the day though, I will say that the social programs that we have
efforts just chimed in for you for stopping. Go ahead, sorry.
The efforts that we do have to support people in these social programs, I will say that these social programs are literally only meant to keep you paddling with your head and your nose above water. Right, because the second that you get your whole head above water, they cut your benefits. I've literally sat and interpreted situations where someone made $40 1 month over what they were allotted to make, and because that caseworker decided that would be ridiculous for me to cut you off of all of your benefits because you made $40 extra this month. That caseworker did not cut that situation off, and then because of that, when they got audited, that person was then responsible for all of the overpay that they had for years after that. Like it's literally, it's not a system. It's not a system that promotes you to succeed. And that's what it goes back to. At the end of the day, we are not really helping you, and we don't really want you to succeed. We will just keep you at this bare minimum level, and that's it. We want to control the populace, because we know that you'll never get to the next stage.
Right. So Sister King said, I don't know anyone that was helped by that program in Stockton. I was a domestic violence, survivor, homeless, plus a veteran, and I didn't receive any help. I worked 3 jobs and just moved to another county to get help that I needed. That's the one thing about surveys. They can survey 10 people and the other 30 people didn't even get. We watch it all the time. We'll talk about stats with kids. We count all the bad kids.
I'm not sure I understood the comment.
She basically saying she's coming from experience that don't work. They did not help her. The program in Stockton for giving homeless people $200. She's talking from experience because she lives in the city. So I hear that, sis. Thank you so much. So yeah, I get that. So tell us about your Saturday school, West to West. I'll put that up there.
Oh yes, so look, we talking a lot of good information about how do we divest from these schools and these institutions and all this mindset. And in 2018, my sister and I started the West to West Saturday School. Tia Williams, shout out to Tia. The West to West Saturday School is an African-centered Saturday program that goes over ancient African curriculum, ancient African ways, everything basically I'm learning at Davis, y'all. I'm bringing it right back to the hood, and we have it on first and third Saturdays. Well, it's first and third Saturdays.
Our second year.
Yes, our second year. It's our second year doing it. We're very excited. We're looking for teachers. This is the real though. this is the real. We had and I'm gonna keep it real because it's Mama Rose show.
Yep.
We had a start date for October 19th. On October 19th, like no teachers was there. I had to postpone like the day before the Saturday school because nobody could come do it. So all these black professionals, all of these black women, these black men that have all these degrees, that have all this information and knowledge, our babies really need it. We accept teachers and students on a rolling basis where teachers are able to come and teach maybe 1 or 2 workshops a month, just based on your expertise. What do you have to offer the community, and what are you learning at your job or your place?
Sign me up, sis.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But we need to have it on a regular basis because we have the classes so regularly that we need folks to commit to 1 Saturday a month or something like that, where we can have this become a beautiful resource. Last year in Saturday school, we serviced over 65 children, and and they all know about West to West. They know about what the cultural competency adds to a child's life, what that can do for somebody.
Cultural competency, like that is so important.
Absolutely, and
that is so important.
And I'm saying that sitting next to like the curator of my cultural competency. You know what I'm saying? Like Mama Ro had Saturday meetings, we had summer classes, we had evening meetings, we had morning, like it was all type of summer camp, everything. So we just have to pack our baby, and I'm a product of that, and I'm very proud of the woman I am today. So I'll say that our children need the same opportunity. Saturday school tries to give them that, and we need our community to step in and
why is it called West to West?
West to West, hey. So West to West is a fully functioning movement. We are taking people from the Western Hemisphere of the world back to West Africa. Black people specifically back to our roots in West Africa.
I love that. So Western civilization and societies back to West Africa.
Yes, because a lot of black people that exist in the Western Hemisphere come from West Africa. We know that black people have existed all over the world, and we know black people are indigenous to the world, but we know that my lineage is from the freedom fighters that existed through the slave trade. So I know that my family is probably West African if they weren't colonized. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So West to West it symbolizes the relationship and the necessary tie back from the West back to the West, and then.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to talk about
from
this.
West Africa back to the West, because there's a lot of people that are trying to get to America for their own reasons. I always had a conversation with my African brothers. I don't know why the hell y'all want to come over here, but if y'all want to, I can do all that I can. You feel me, to try to see what that looks like to go to school out here, better education opportunities. So we try to be like a liaison between those two sides of the world because our people exist, there. So the West to West movement takes people physically on trips and excursions to Ghana. We took 3 groups now, doing another one this Christmas, December 25th through January 5th. We'll be there. If you're interested, you go to west2westmovement.com. West2westmovement.com and sign up for one of our trips. But the school, the local efforts, is about preparing our babies' minds to go to Africa and really have a good experience, because you go over there with all your Americanness, you won't enjoy it unless you understand this is where you come from before you get there. So we try to dive back on the intellectual, the ideas before we do that. But we do have trips coming up.
I love it.
Saturday school, we back. Thank you so much.
You can definitely trust that I will be at least, like you said, at least 1 Saturday a month. I can do that.
Thank you so much.
do that.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
Thank
and
you,
since we are speaking on it, I did just run into Imani Herman. She is, what's her app name on? Let me see real quick. On Instagram, she is doing Goddess Tour, and she's working within Sacramento, but within the state and throughout the state.
Okay.
But I wanted to give her, what's her app? Anyways, it's called the Goddess Tour. She's looking to expand that, so maybe we can
absolutely
connect with that whole situation, because we need that. We need that support. I had Mama Ro at Kennedy High School as well.
Changing lives,
changing lives, and bringing unity, bringing awareness, and very intense conversation, but creating a safe space. And that's what made me have that conversation with Imani yesterday, is that it's really about creating a safe space. Even though we might have things that we don't initially understand, we don't have the knowledge behind, we don't really even know how to identify, because I think that matters a lot with how we're able to connect with other people, because we have to know who we are in order to connect with them. We have to, if we are limited to who we are, if we're limited to our own, or not even really fully understanding or being aware of what our experiences are, then when someone else shares something, we like, oh, I didn't know that, or I can't identify with that. But then it's like, well, what about when you did woo woo woo? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. Just like, you know what I mean? Or, but if you don't know your own, if you don't know where you come from, if you don't know your own culture, you can't even
Right.
You don't have that basis and that foundation.
So what does that look like real time? We got black babies that go to schools, and there's other people there from other cultures, and they all got their culture. We all have culture.
And then when they
got nothing, so we sitting there feeling insecure and incompetent.
Girl, they do that in college. I mean, in elementary school, and they go, "Oh, it's culture time," and then black kids be like, "Oh, we don't have culture."
But that's a lie.
It is
and
a lie.
I'm here today.
It is a lie.
That lie.
It is a lie.
Because even if we don't go all the way back to Africa to find our culture, black people have been in these lands doing phenomenal things that add to who we are today and add to my culture. And it took me going to Africa to see, okay, I'm from here, this is different. But also, right here in real time in America, it ain't just been no easy ride to survive. And everything that we've done as a means of survival, I feel like add to our culture. So like anything that we have done, anything that we have done to exist, is a means of our culture. So what that look like? Black people, I remember, and then we learned this on a road trip, a Mama Road Quality of Life road trip, a very great initiative to support. We talk about, we went to Philadelphia, and it was the Black Holocaust Museum, and they showed us the actual barrels that black people used to have to, in civil rights, during black codes, were not allowed to laugh out loud. So black people was holding their laugh and putting their head into barrels. It was barrels on the sidewalk that black people had, like garbage cans. That you have to, anytime you have to laugh, you have to put your hand in a barrel. You can't laugh out loud. How does that turn into real time? Now we have this culture.
Why you can't laugh?
Holding our because they don't want to see them black happy. They don't want to see us happy or smiling or none of that.
So now in real time, that looks like a culture of us. We can't even laugh out loud. We always hide our laugh or running or being happy in private.
Yeah.
We didn't used to smiling in public. My grandmother never smiled in public. She was never happy in public. And if we start playing too much and having playing too much, sit down, we corrected that. So a lot of things that, I'm sorry, I didn't say it like that. A lot of things that we've adopted have become culture. And that was an example of that. But there are also good examples of found family. We have an example, a culture of making people family, not really your family. That's also a tool of resistance. Because as a kinless person, you are more vulnerable and you're out here without kinship. But what does that also tie back to? Kinship traditions in Africa, where your auntie would be just as equally respected as your mama, where your uncles raised you like they was your father. That's all one story that we're not telling collectively because we don't get the opportunity to know
and
it
we don't know
and recognize it and be like, yo, that's my culture too. You know what I'm saying? But that's it is. And we got to tell our babies, you come from something greater than this. Even when we were slaves, we understand that's where we at right now. But before black people were in a condition to be slaves, you know what I'm saying? They would look at my sister. Before they was in a condition to be slaves, they was also in a condition to exist and be something greater than what we are today. So I don't think that we have to limit ourselves to the slave narrative, but that is who my people was, And I come from people who, my great-grandparents were sharecroppers. That means my great-grandparents was probably slaves. So I couldn't be up in here like, oh, we was, we not just slaves. We were
and that
people who are strong enough to survive after that.
And you can use that shit as fuel like the Jews do with the Holocaust.
But the people when they say, oh, I'm so sick of it because Harriet is about to come out.
I'm ready for it.
And I know this might be our last topic.
No,
but Harriet is about to come out, and there's people who are all over Facebook, and they're just like, I'm so sick of seeing 12 Years a Slave. I'm so sick of No, that's not really what they're coming from. They're not coming from disrespecting her and her story and what she's done. What they're saying is that they want to move past the narrative that black people have been slaves. We know that.
Well, they were slaves. They were
enslaved. But I'm saying,
gotta correct that.
Okay,
but I get
black
what you're
people
saying.
have been enslaved, and we're tired of having that. Be reminded that y'all were enslaved, y'all was enslaved. This is what y'all did, and the narrative, because there are very different narratives. When you look at Hidden Colors, and you looking at all the information that you learned from in a very alternative perspective of there were riots, there were uproars, there were not people.
The man who was the pimp who did that film. Who pimp and disrespect black women? Is that the film we're talking about? The director of Hidden Colors?
I don't know that. I don't know that history of that.
I will say this though. I agree. I feel we come from as far as we don't have no black and dinner movies. We don't have a lot of black astronaut movies. I could see the narrative kind of
like Hidden Figures is very different.
I watched all the Hidden Figures.
But at the same time, I also say that we still enslaved. So it's really hard to get off the slavery narrative. I feel like I watch black people watch slave movies. I make my students, my family, they be so mad when I come over. I be like, no, turn the slave movie on so y'all can see we still living the same.
Yeah.
These mentalities ain't went nowhere.
Right.
And I know we've worked hard to like come out of stuff, but when I watch slave movies, I cry the same way every time because I really see the way, and 12 Years Slave specifically, and I watch them all every day. Every day I watch them all day because the truth is that we can see, and if we taught our babies to watch it differently, we will see the resilience, we will see the power, we will see the strength, and though it's like the same, you could say it's the same movie being recreated, I would say that it's not really the same movie because we really have only begin to uncover the manifold of slavery. Like that shit has done some catastrophic shit to us.
Amen.
And each movie, each one I watch gives me a different perspective.
Absolutely. No, I don't agree with and when people are like, I'm over it, I'm like, I'm gonna watch it.
And after that, now I never said that was what you were saying.
Yeah. But I'm like other people's perspective. And I'm like,
but to that person, I will also say that you gotta watch it again. Because you ain't got the message. Because you're still mad about the narrative and you're not using it.
It's superficial. You gotta see it deeper.
But you're not using it to
never hear Drew say. You will never hear Drew say, "I don't want no more Holocaust movies."
Pay homage to that.
Never hear that.
Pay homage to that. We went through
that's
that,
what they
and
do.
it's a great
Never
movie about it. Like
they say never forget.
What was I gonna say? It was a sister that she was teaching us how. Oh, not even a sister. It was my professor. She was telling us about. We talk about a lot about how Atlantic slave trade affected Black people in the Americas, right? But we don't talk about how it affected Northern America. But we don't talk a lot about the Caribbean story. Yeah. We haven't talked about how the Atlantic slave trade impacted Africa. Like what was going on for 400 years over there, where it was a whole relationship between the West and the West, where y'all was sending slaves out like that. So there's still so much of the story we haven't covered. So I'm gonna watch every movie till I see it come out true, till I see the story, or maybe we gotta write the script you want to see. You know what I'm saying? That's another truth. But the truth is that we have to get to it, and I didn't even touch on the Harriet piece because, to be honest, I'm gonna watch everything that she got coming out. Okay, for everything she did for me.
They having the blackout for Harriet Tubman. You know that.
We doing that. We gotta go. We gotta go to the blackout.
I'm gonna buy like about 6 tickets and take a couple of girls with me. So I can
okay. What day is that?
Christy, if you're online, tell us the day.
I think we should all go. We should all go. We should all support.
Yeah, it's gonna be all black women.
But at the same token, we got to support. People was mad what Ava DuVernay did, A Wrinkle in Time, and they felt like it wasn't black enough. So what is the spectrum of measurement that we got to hold our black people to? If it's either got to be black slavery, Africa, or nothing. Is that the standard? So we got to give black people space to show up and produce the work. And this is me speaking as an artist, as someone who put their heart into creating something for other people to enjoy. You have to be like, yo, this is from the artistic perspective of someone else, the creative perspective of someone else, and we exist in so many different ways. So to someone like Ava DuVernay, who did The 13th, who definitely did it for black people and uncovered information for black people and catastrophically opened our mind up. She also did the Central Park. She did When They See Us. She did, and she referred to Wrinkle in Time. But that doesn't take a lot of black people use the Wrinkle in Time to take away from her investment and commitment to black people because she's doing a different type of narrative. So we get caught up in like, what our story are you telling about black people right now? It's like, no, this is a black woman, black people doing stuff for black people, for the culture, supported.
I get that. And I also say sometimes if you don't like stuff, maybe it's just me. Sometimes I have a hard time when we compare ourselves to our ancestors. They were way more smart than what the fuck we got going on. And they had, somebody put a meme up that said, our ancestors had more courage and less resources, and we got all the resources and no courage.
Right.
We don't even know how to, I just ain't down with that. Like, for instance, I watched the Dolomite movie. I fucking loved it. I grew up watching Dolomite, so what I did is I watched the film 3 days before, and then I watched the one that Murphy did. Not only I was laughing, but it was so many messages in that movie for him. He was a country black man. You know how black people feel about country. Y'all motherfuckers is country. My grandmother changed her name because her name was country when she moved up north to Pennsylvania. Right. But he also talked about no matter how old you are, your dreams, you don't have to, you can reinvent yourself. He took black people along with him where he wasn't even a cookie cutter for what you would see on the screen. There are so many messages in that movie, and it gave me a different respect for Rudy Ray Moore because I just wasn't into his kind of comedy. But it was so many messages, and then he also bypassed the gatekeepers and went straight to the people, and the people supported him. Right. That speaks volumes because some of us are fighting to be gatekeepers, but we don't. Our people now, I also think people in that time basically thought for themselves. They weren't as inundated as we are. People didn't really tell them what to think like that because they had their own code. That's why it pays to study history and not go off, and be careful who you study history from, because white people will have you believe, and some confused Negroes will have you believe in a certain kind of narrative that we know wasn't true. Like when Dr. Gates asked some Africans that they benefit from slavery, and they sit there looking poor as hell, talking about something. Yes, they did. And it was like, what the hell? People were really mad at Dr. Gates for that. I just was like, okay, like this is the documentary. But I also want to say, remind you 2 things. We still have on this coming Tuesday, we're going to have the, again, we're 100 Black Women Mentors.
Sonia Lewis says she totally agrees with you that the conditioning has been implied to dumb us down, but I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay, no worries. We're still writing people down. I'm trying to recruit 100 Black women to be trained as mentors to 100 Black girls. And so our first orientation will be this Tuesday. I believe that's the 29th.
Okay. What time is that going to be?
That's going to be at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then me and Gissy, along with our rightful place and myself. And my thing is like, fuck all that talking. If y'all concerned about Black girls, I work with them all the time in school. And you talked about earlier how Black kids feel. When I did this exercise in my class at one of the middle schools, everybody else was excited about their culture. You got to the Black girls, they was mixing everything and couldn't tell you one thing, how to fry anything, how to cook anything, no language, nothing. They were so embarrassed about being Black, and you know I had to light it up.
Right,
that's what I do.
right.
But that is real. Them feeling like who they are is nothing to be proud of when everybody on the planet came out of a Black woman. So 6 p.m. y'all is when the training is.
Tuesday, y'all be here, be square.
And then today, our rightful place, our Sacramento Sister was hosting a gentleman's coming in. Please forgive me, I forgot to post the thing. But today he's going to be doing this teaching on how do you brand yourself and marketing and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go live with him in the interview, and then he's going to work with some people one-on-one. So I'm saying we got a lot of stuff going on here in Sacramento.
We are the solution, man.
We are. I think to me, that's where the rubber meets the road for me. I go by what people do, not the shit they talk about. I can't stand an expert that ain't never did no goddamn work. People go to school to be an expert, but ain't really did shit.
I think there's value in analyzing and.
Well, I agree, but I'm talking about for me, a person from the field who's been doing this for 35 years. Yeah. And I'm 48, so you can tell you how long I started. There is something to be said for people. Like if I wanted to study to be a millionaire, I don't want somebody who analyzed the millionaire to tell me. I want the millionaire to tell me. What did you do? How did this feel? What things should I be looking for that I may fail on? How did it feel coming from that for real place? Nothing wrong with analyzing. That's great. But I don't roll like that. I have to talk to the people who actually did it. That's how it works for me.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, I think that there's value, and obviously, like you said, the rubber hitting the road. Yeah, there's value in real experience, and then there's value in having the knowledge of it. Because so having the knowledge of what it is that you're doing, because like you said, you might have somebody who has had experience in 35 years of doing something or approaching something, or however strategic they may be, or what their experience has gained for them to allow them to get to the place that they are. And then you have someone else who has examined their experience along with someone else who has done it for 40 years along, and then they have a different insight of this is what we find to be common within this. I understand that your experience is your what we call it, your micro experience. You know what I'm saying? But on a macro level, when we take yours, you get what I'm saying, and we look at it all the way. Everyone has their own individual Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King versus Marcus Garvey versus James Baldwin. Like, you know what I'm saying? But when we look at all of it, we can still take away some extractions and say, this is what we found to be common. This is what we found to be an issue. But you don't get that unless you analyze it. You can't get it when you're only in that one space.
I agree. I also know for me, and I always say for me, because making an I statement is so much powerful than being generic. I just know when I talk to somebody who's done something I want to do, they tell me about shit that analysts people never know. Like those feelings of feeling like maybe your people ain't gonna support you. When I watched Dolomite, that was so apparent. All the times I've seen him do his movies was hella. I mean, they they did in bad taste, but it was him just making it happen. What's I been research for? But he talked about those feelings that a person who analyzed him would have never got. Yeah. Like, what is it like to feel like your people reject you? And the black people told him, we only want Fred Williamson and Jim Brown, but he was too doughy for the role, which meant he was too fat. Or what it felt like when that black woman said to him, thank you for putting me in your movies, because you never get to see anybody who look like me anymore. That is something that we don't talk about when we analyze stuff. Analyze people do surface shit. People who experience this stuff can tell you may feel like this. You may feel like you're going to be left out there. I've never heard an analyst say the person who is the founder or the person who leads as a leader, you may have these feelings. I've never heard anybody say that. Right. I've never heard people talk about Garvey feeling how alone he felt when he realized his best friend, I don't even know if he even understood that, was agent number 121275. Like they never talk about how did Garvey feel that the man who was his right hand was an agent. You're not going to hear that from an analyst. You only can hear that from Garvey. How did Malcolm X feel when they shot his house up and all the people who claimed they loved him, some of them left him hanging? We don't talk about that in analysts. That's why I think some people be like, I ain't fucking with black folks, because sometimes we have this way of generifying who leadership is instead of talking about when you're a leader, what is it like when black people betray you? What is it like when you get up? I've learned this from Javon. I've been in meetings with Javon. You know how Javon looked. And what they would do is that they would go get the darkest sister to counter Javon. And I said, Javon, how does that make you feel? She said, I just shut it down and just kind of, I just say, well, that sister's entitled. She said, I would never, like you said, go against her, because she would be coming from the white perspective, even though she looked like the purest of us all. And Javon, definitely mixed race woman, but coming with the heat. You know what I'm saying? And she said, what I would always, she said, it would hurt me, because it's like, girl, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for me, but for you. But they're going to use you against me. But I never get to hear, how do you feel when you're a leader and people come against you and you like, or they not for you, or they take your shit and try to remix it and give it back to white people. Because I see us do that now. We keep trying to blend into their system and the shit don't work. I don't care if you got 1,000 black social workers. I'm not seeing shit get better. But that's just me. Because I was there when we barely had any black social workers. When the crack hit here. You know, we barely had any. Now we got everybody studying with social work degrees, psychology degrees, and we're more fucked up now than we've ever been. It feels like to me. Because being black supposed to mean something, but maybe you get to learn, maybe black don't really mean shit to people.
I think that we learn our real starting point. I think that language and knowledge gives you language, and it gives you the vocabulary and the words that you need to describe what it is that you're going through. Like, you know what I mean? You know, when you have kids who be anxious and they be, get like, can't sit still and da-da-da, and you like, oh, he just don't ever listen, or he did it, and it's like, nah, bruh got ADHD. Bruh got anxiety. Bruh, you know what I'm saying? When you have that language, it gives you a real starting point. And I think that black people are so quick to be so worried about the negative connotations of these labels, and to be worried about, oh, that's white people. White people got ADHD. White people got abandonment issues. White people got, you know what I'm saying? And that's some white shit. And it's like, no, there's a lot of this shit is not about white shit. And it's like, that's what I think that too many black people, because, and I say this with compassion and love in my heart, but again, we have to stop measuring trauma. We have to stop thinking like, okay, because you wasn't warming up water on the stovetop for your bath means that you didn't have no struggles as a black person. It's like when we talking about survival, you know what I'm saying? Just because I didn't have issues with my necessities being met, I had a house, you feel me? I had a roof over my head, I had food in my belly, and I had clothes on my back. That's the bare minimum. And there's so many people, and that's somebody joked about it, Dave Chappelle joked about it, saying there's a difference between poor and broke. Right. I'm broke because I got all my needs met, but I ain't got no extra money to fuck off. Right. Compared to I'm poor when my needs ain't being met. And there's so many black people who come from poor, and because their bare necessities are not being met, they look at other black people in a different socioeconomic status, and they be like, you got privilege, or you don't got nothing to complain about. But it's like, I'm dealing with real other shit here at most other problems.
See me, right? Just because you can't see me where I'm at.
Just because you don't know these type of problems where I'm at on this level.
Because you ain't been here, right?
But you thinking that but me struggling over how I'm gonna make sure that my business stay running. You like, bitch, that's white people shit. You know what I'm saying? Because I gotta worry about paying rent, and you worry about paying rent at your business.
Right.
But these are still real problems. Me going through getting denied for loans, me getting denied for, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's real shit.
That's how capitalism works, though. Because everybody, we talking about this free market, this free game. It ain't no free game. You gotta be at a certain level to be able to play. And the truth is that if you're not up there, you're just not up there. And you can't see me because you're not up there or down there. Same way. Yeah. You at the top, you don't know what I'm doing with down here.
Right.
Because you at the top, maybe you exist in a different level. Right. So we gotta be able, as black people, what does it mean for us, though? So when we up here, all these levels to this, we have to know how to be interchangeable. I gotta know how to get in my black capitalist family the same way I get in my black poor family. I gotta know how to get in my black middle class family, because it does inform our accessibility to this idea of wealth and money and having shit is different compared to the problem where we at. I know some place I've been where it's like, yo, I do not make enough money to be here. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm in some nice stuff right now, Papa, but I'm gonna act like I know how to go, and I think that's one of our strengths.
Yeah, duality. We know about a
quality.
The versatility of just being one of many. You know what I'm saying? I do have to perform, but I love y'all
Same,
so
same,
much,
same.
and I love everything that we're doing. You know, Sacramento doing a big matriarchs like women like Mama Ro who can have space for this. So I thank you, Mama Ro, for giving us time to come and rap and talk about it and build. You know what I'm saying? Tap in with Mama Ro, Earth Mama Healing Network. This is really going to be something way bigger than anything y'all ever seen before in media. That's what we're going to do.
Hype up, like,
you know what I'm
you
saying?
know what's
We got
when
to.
black people start doing this?
Yo, this is the real. But now, thank you, Mama. I love you. And I just
Too.
really
Appreciate
so I need to think it's my first time really getting out and sitting there and rap with you. You know what I'm saying? This is beautiful.
We've worked together. We at the Black Women's March, and
Oh,
girl, she hold on. I just a real short story because she got up and she spit her amazing fire ass poem, and here's me. I'm like, oh God, where are you going with this thing? And I'm trying to try to keep up with the whole idea and the figurative language and the picture that you paint. That was a challenge for me. So next time, because I'm always working the Black Women's March, the Women's March as well. Next time,
I got you.
I need you to send me your poem so I can read it
I
first.
need Black Women United to let me know if there's an interpreter.
BWU. Oh, okay. Well, we're not. I'm gonna step out of that conversation.
Hey.
But next time I'm gonna be more prepared. So
I'm
love y'all. We out.
All of us.
Yeah.